Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Saturday stream. Hope everyone's having an awesome. Wait a minute.
What is going on here?
Wait a minute. It seems like I've been stuck in a filter. I'm not a cat. I am live.
What is going on here?
Yes, I did the thing.
How much did I drink last night?
I did the thing, and yeah, I am the cat now.
Oh.
Please tell me you saw that video with the lawyer cat.
No.
Aw, boo. Did it just die on me? Okay, there we are. Please tell me you saw that video with the lawyer.
Nope.
No?
That's a negative.
Alright, hold on. Let me make sure.
Whoa.
Okay, let me make sure we switch over. Oops.
Tree branch just fell down and almost hit this little cardinal.
Jeez.
Nature be brutal like that.
You must go on with the show even though you're not a cat.
He is secretly a cat, though.
Yeah. I actually found out how to do the closest thing to that filter with the with that viral video, the judge who got stuck in a zoom filter. I mean, not the judge, the lawyer who got stuck in a zoom filter, and I figured out how to kind of mimic it as best as possible. Anyways,
Oh no.
and like it's just all it is just a filter. Lawyer cat is ruling the internet right now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I think it's like kind of messing with me. So thanks for the biddies, Alio. Thank you.
Well, why don't you just put your normal...
I would if I could like see my mouse. Where'd you go?
Did you lose your mouse?
Yeah, it's my computer's frozen. Hey, but at least we're still live, so that's good.
Oh no. We're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Happy Saturday, everybody.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes, eh?
Oh my god.
Hey, very scary Larry, how's it going? Is it my computer or is it my mouse? I don't get it. That's
I don't
right,
know.
cats don't like mouses.
Oh no, oh no, I'm not frozen. I just am sitting very still.
No, you're fine. It's just that my PC is frozen.
For a second I looked up, I'm like, oh no, I'm frozen. Oh wait, no. I'm just being still. I'm good. Looks like it's gonna rain again today.
Rain or snow?
It's just warm enough that it will be rain.
Oh, just warm enough?
Yep.
Yeah, see, why can't I see myself?
Good job, Carlos.
Is it... Okay. Is it just
You
the
done
mouse
did
or
it.
is it like the computer? Because I can't actually...
Oh, there you go. Your filter started working again.
Oh yeah? It never fails.
That's right. He has always been a computer program.
Oh, there we are. It's the cat lawyer, yes. There we go. Okay, it's back. I'm not a cat. Let's see what else I can cut here.
I'm not a cat.
Yeah. Hey, designer downer, how's it going? Actually, quick shout outs. Alright, I think I did it.
You done did it? You didn't undad it?
Yeah, I think it is my mouse, because I can see everything now. I don't know. Is it for real right now? Yeah, my mouse is completely done. Okay.
You broke your mouse, Carlos?
No, I broke my computer, that's what I did.
Why'd you do that?
I broke it in my computer. I think it's like trying to handle too many things at the same time. So it kind of...
Oh,
I don't know. I'm trying to reduce like the amount of stuff that I'm using.
it just updated it. And turned off my video.
Oh, like
Thanks.
I'm trying to run like Discord, the stream, the Google Chrome, and the cat filter.
Mm.
Hey Wither King, how's it going?
I think you're just gonna have to accept that you're a cat now.
The lawyer cat is jittery. Yeah, it's not perfect because my computer is not cooperating as well as it could. Oh, you know what? I got it. I got an idea. As soon as it lets me. Oh Lord.
My goodness. I'm so tired today. Come on, Carlos. Get it together.
Okay, that should be significantly better. Like, that should be significantly better. Yeah, too much stuff is going for my computer to handle. True. That's okay. I mean, it's just a simple... Well... Semi-simple...
Your filter's not working.
Yeah, now it's just... Now I'm just a circle. Yeah, no problem, Alio. That's okay. We'll figure it out.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, we got another 10 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Look at that. Man, at this point I miss the cat.
Yeah. The cat filter is dead. No.
Rip. You can't just turn
Oh, there I am.
off the filter. Oh, goodness.
I think this is funny, okay?
You just had to use the filter.
What's a cat filter?
You're gonna break your computer.
Yeah, I am.
Shame. I can't even.
However, I'm going to take off the I'm gonna take off the filter because, like, it just can't do it. I mean, it was funny for the first few moments, okay? It worked for a second. It worked for a second.
It did. For a sec. It'd be cool if it, like, melted into your face.
Yeah, right?
I think it would have been funnier if you had put on one of those filters where it, like, changes your actual face.
Yeah. I mean, I could do that. I just chose this one because this one is the one from that viral video. I can make one that's, like, super clean, where it will literally transform the face into a cat.
That would be cool. Wow, since 2011. This filter's a decade old, huh? That's pretty crazy.
Hold on, let me fix myself.
What did you do?
I'm trying to fix myself. There we go. Alright, it's back to normal. It's back to normal. Kind of. It's kind of normal. This is the normal setting.
That's funny. Yeah, I like that setting better.
Yeah, because it works. Unfortunately, the cat filter didn't work the way I thought. Like, it was working just fine, and I had it running for a while, and it didn't seem to have a it didn't seem to have a problem, but I guess me trying to run all this stuff at once, it didn't like it.
Yeah, apparently not.
Alright, let me make sure we can get everything else fixed before
Oh, I forgot to turn on my stuff.
okay, I think I got it.
Okay, that should be better.
Okay, that's not a problem. Stream. Alright, I think we're okay. Sweet.
Woohoo!
The awesome stuff about, like, about OBS, the cool thing about OBS is I can actually fix and do stuff behind the scenes before I actually, like, move to the other scene, because that would be really awkward. Has been taking over computers. Skype had to release a notice to customers back in 2012 on how to remove it. That's
Wow.
I see. Amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Okay. So, now that we had, you know, that funny bit going for a second, even though it didn't work the way I wanted it to, well, we are having, we are having impeachment hearings, and I think that it's still going on. If so, we'll go ahead and check and take a listen if it's still going on. Because I think today's the last day. If I'm correct, I think today's the last day.
Mm.
Mm. I'm so upset. I wanted it to work.
You were close.
Yeah, I was close. Not the last day, thousands of witnesses will be called. I don't know about that one. I was close. No. Okay. Yeah, C-SPAN is streaming it, well, or at least having it live on YouTube. Let's see here.
I switched from State Farm because
No. State Farm is $163 a month for car insurance. Yikes. Oh, 86.
Minutes and a final vote today.
Yeah, there's a final vote today. Closing arguments and final vote. Okay. So I guess right now they're just in a recess, I guess. Oh wait, I'm here eating crap and like, okay. Yeah, this is it over here, guys. Oops.
Mhm.
No, not us. Here. No, they voted to bring in witnesses? Oh. Yeah, I guess we might see more stuff. But I thought today was the final day. Didn't the Senate call for witnesses? I have no idea. I just tuned in right now. This must have started for... Oh, it's right here. Senate approves subpoenaing witnesses, negotiations ongoing. Yeah, you're right, you're right. So, I don't know about thousands of witnesses, but definitely there are going to be some witnesses. Some witnesses are going to be called, that's for sure. Delaying the verdict? Yeah, maybe. Depending on how depending on how things go, I imagine that they might be delayed just a little bit for till the end of the weekend, I think. I think they're gonna have to work through the holiday weekend. Trump yelling at McCarthy to care about the false and stolen election in a phone call. Yeah, I heard about that. Well, actually, I thought he was yelling at Trump or I thought he was yelling at Trump to tell everybody to calm down or to leave. I thought that's what he was yelling at him about. Putin should be a witness. I'm not sure how that's gonna work. Why can't Trump retire? We want to move on. Well, I mean, he is going to be for the most part. Depending on what happens here, it's going to determine whether or not he has like any type of political future. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Did you see the cat filter? Heat, please tell me you saw the cat filter. Were you here earlier? Yes. Okay. Good. Good. I tried, okay? I was gonna do the whole stream as a cat. I was prepared to move forward.
You saw the majority leader, Chuck Schumer, stand up. He was sitting in his chair. The minority leader also, Mitch McConnell, in the chamber. So we suspect that they will resume this Senate impeachment trial any minute and announce what happens next with witnesses. I just want to share Burgess Everett of Politico, his reporting on what happened this morning. And he says that this witness vote totally blinded Senate Dems, who held a conference call at 9 a.m. and indicated they didn't think this would come up. House managers decided right before 10 a.m. to call that vote. Let's watch and listen to the majority leader to see what happens next.
Wait, I thought they were gonna play what was going on. I guess not. Happy Caturday. Yes, that's what we aim to do here. Just hang out, have some chill vibes. Although, you know, unfortunately, this impeachment stuff is kind of taking up news. So we'll kind of have this on the background, you know, as things progress. Because I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a whole day thing, or I don't know what the deal is, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to go on for quite a while. Wait. I think you just became a black square again.
Yes. I am the black square. This part of the world just stopped existing, so.
Oh, okay. My husband works for the courts in IT, says that the filter stuff happens all the time. Yeah, I bet. I am disappointed, the Black Square of Destiny, true. I am disappointed that I can't support the entire filter throughout the stream without my computer, like, crying.
Yeah. I don't think my computer would mind.
No, I don't think yours would. But yeah, I am pretty disappointed.
Alright, I guess. Try and fix it. Oh, my camera's just not working. I don't feel like standing up. We're just gonna use this camera.
Let's get you a fancier computer. True. True. The cat filter that just went viral has been around since 2011. Oh yeah. Lawyer cat is a legend. Yes. So it originally started as a Skype filter. That's amazing.
That was pretty funny.
I am upset that I can't Wait. that I can't use it throughout the whole stream. I might do the bit again on Monday if I could figure out what the heck I did wrong, or why I may do the bit on Monday. The cat news. The cat news.
Only if you say cool cats and kittens. You have to say that wearing that filter.
Fine.
Yeah. I think I'm tired because I'm hungry.
You're hungry. Oh, that's right. You should get something to eat then.
Yeah, I put food in the oven and it smells good.
And it smells good.
I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna go to sleep.
No. Listen, I know C-SPAN is boring, but
Oh, that's muted. I'm not even listening.
no,
Remember?
it's not. There's no sound. Like
That little squirrel.
even if you had it
He fell down the pole.
like an actual squirrel that you're watching outside.
He tried to climb up the pole that my bird feeder's on, and he slid right back down. He just did it again. Oh, man.
So this isn't like a movie with just the interesting bits broadcast. True. Yeah, like even if you didn't have it unmuted, there's nothing going on right now. It says inaudible. So they probably have they're probably in a recess.
Oh, God.
Is by the way, did you turn on your I give up. Did you turn on the C920?
I can neither confirm nor deny these
That looks-
accusations.
That looks really good, especially like from that perspective here, and it fits perfect. Yeah, cool. One of these days, don't worry. One of these days we'll figure it out.
I need to get some build a mount, I guess, and screw it to the wall for the DSLR so it can go above my computer. But I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet. Oh no. Good grief.
More people would turn into C-SPAN if they had some kind of combat allowed. You mean like
if you had to battle to speak, that would be
like you mean like trial by combat? I remember a certain figure calling for
Senate will be in order.
calling for trial by combat. I remember a certain figure. Oh, the Senate will be in order, so I think they're gonna come back.
Without objection, so ordered. Ms. Vanderveen? No. Mr. Castor, I'm
They're
sorry.
not sitting 6 feet apart.
Yeah,
Yes, you are.
they're not socially distancing. True.
Senators,
Glasses all fucked up.
Donald John Trump, by his counsel, is prepared to stipulate that if Representative Herrera Butler were to testify under oath as part of these proceedings, her testimony would be consistent with the statement she issued on February 12, 2021, and the former president's counsel is agreeable to the admission of that public statement into evidence at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Castor. Mr. Raskin?
Thank you, Mr. President. The managers are prepared to enter into the agreement. I will now read the statement. This is the statement of Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler, February 12, 2021. In my January 12th statement in support of the article of impeachment, I referenced a conversation House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy relayed to me that he'd had with President Trump while the January 6th attack was ongoing. Here are the details.
Nice.
When McCarthy finally reached the president on January 6th and asked him to publicly and forcefully call off the riot, the president initially repeated the falsehood that it was Antifa that had breached the Capitol.
What?
McCarthy refuted that and told the president that these were Trump supporters. That's when, according to McCarthy, the president said, Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are. Since I publicly announced my decision to vote for impeachment, I have shared these details in countless conversations with constituents and colleagues, and multiple times through the media and other public forums. I told it to the Daily News of Longview on January 17th. I've shared it with local county Republican executive board members, as well as other constituents who asked me to explain my vote. I shared it with thousands of residents on my telephone town hall on February 8th. Mr. President, I now move that the Senate admit the statement into evidence.
Objection, and without objection, the statement will be admitted into evidence. And does either party wish to make any further motions related to witnesses or documents at this time?
Mr.
Yeah, I could
President,
barely hear
the
this guy.
President's counsel have no further motions.
Discuss.
And Mr. President, we have no further motions either.
Excuse me, then the chair would note that neither party wishes to make further motions under Section 6 of Senate Resolution 47. Therefore, the next question is on admission of the evidence submitted by both parties pursuant to Section 8 of the resolution. The majority leaders recommend.
So now, as we move to another matter, I'm advised that the House managers have no objection to the admission of evidence proposed to be admitted by the former President's counsel under the provisions of Section 8 of Senate Resolution 47, and that the President's counsel have no objections to the evidence proposed to be admitted into evidence by the House managers. Pursuant to Section 8 of the resolution, as agreed to by Leader McConnell and myself a few days ago, both parties have made timely filings of this evidence with the Secretary of the Senate and have provided copies to each other. I therefore ask unanimous consent that the Senate dispense with the provisions of Section 8A of Senate Resolution 47, and that the materials submitted by both parties be admitted into evidence, subject to the provisions of Section 8C of that resolution, which provides that the admission of this evidence does not constitute a concession by either party as to the truth of the matters asserted by the other party, and that each senator shall decide for him or herself the weight to be given such evidence. This request has the approval of both parties and the Republican
This is just the
leader.
best alarm company
Without objection, is so ordered.
regarding comments. True. What's the ADT besides everyone else's name? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. You got it.
Okay, then pursuant to the provisions of Senate Resolution 47, the Senate has
Zeoduke is also
provided
true.
for up
That's
to
true.
4 hours of closing
Confirmed.
arguments. They'll be equally divided between the managers on the part of the House of Representatives and the counsel for the former president. And pursuant to Rule 22 of the Rules of Procedure and Practice in the Senate, when sitting on impeachment trials, the argument shall be open and closed on the part of the House of Representatives. So the chair recognizes Mr. Manager Raskin to begin the presentation on the
Is
part
he
of the
gonna
House of
die
Representatives.
before he gets to the end of this or something? Like,
Mr. Raskin,
Yeah,
under Rule
I don't know.
22,
This guy's like
you may reserve
voice
time
and
if you wish.
tone and
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate.
pace is like
Before I
beyond
proceed,
slow.
It was suggested by defense counsel that Donald Trump's conduct during the attack, as described in Congresswoman Butler's statement, is somehow not part of the constitutional offense for which former President Trump has been charged. I want to reject that falsehood and that fallacy immediately. After he knew that violence was underway at the Capitol, President Trump took actions that further incited the insurgents to be more inflamed and to take even more extreme, selective, and focused action against Vice President Mike Pence.
True.
Former President Trump also, as described by Congressman Butler's notes, refused requests to publicly, immediately, and forcefully call off the riots. And when he was told that the insurgents inside the Capitol were Trump supporters, the president said, quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election
Well, Kevin.
than you are." Think
Well,
about that for a
Kevin.
second. This uncontradicted statement that has just been stipulated as part of the evidentiary record. The president said, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people," meaning the mobsters, the insurrectionists,
Well,
"are
Kevin."
more upset about the election."
These are forever gonna be like words
That conduct
forever
is
forever
obvious
gonna be like
part and
in the record.
parcel of the constitutional offense that he was impeached for, namely incitement to insurrection. That is continuing incitement to the insurrection. The conduct described not only perpetuated his continuing offense, but also provides to us here today further decisive evidence of his intent to incite the insurrection in the first place. When my opposing counsel says that you should ignore the president's actions after the insurrection began, that is plainly wrong. And it, of course, reflects the fact that they have no defense to his outrageous, scandalous, and unconstitutional conduct in the middle of a violent assault on the Capitol that he incited. Senators, think about it for a second. Say you light a fire, and you're charged with arson. And the defense counsel says, everything that I did after the fire started is irrelevant. And the court would reject that immediately and say, that's not true at all. It's extremely relevant to whether or not you committed a
like
crime.
imagine
If you
starting
run
a
over and
fire
try to put out the
and
flames,
then you
get
put out
lots
the
of water
fire
and say,
and then
"Help,
you get
there's a
arrested
fire."
for arson
Call for
because like
help.
you started a
The
fire and
court
then be
will
like, but I
infer
put it
that
out, or like I
could
tried, or
infer
that
you
wasn't my
didn't
intention. It
intend
doesn't
for the fire
matter.
to be
Like,
lit in the first
what?
place. They would accept your defense, perhaps, that it was all an accident. It was an all accident. Accidents happen with fire.
But
if
you
on the
still
other
did
hand,
it.
When the fire erupts, you go and you pour more fuel on it. You stand by and you watch it gleefully. Any reasonable person will infer that you not only intended the fire to start, but that once it got started and began to spread, you intended to continue to keep the fire going. And that's exactly where we are, my friends. Of course your conduct while a crime is ongoing is relevant to your culpability, both to the continuation of the offense, but also directly relevant, directly illuminating to what your purpose was originally. What was your intent? And any court in the land would laugh out of court any criminal defendant who said, what I did after I allegedly killed that person is irrelevant to whether or not I intended to kill them. I mean, come on. Donald Trump's refusal not only to send help, but also to continue to further incite the insurgents against his own vice president provides further decisive evidence of both his intent to start this violent insurrection and his continued incitement once the attack had begun to override the Capitol. All right. Senators, that was in response to this new evidentiary particle that came in. But in my closing, I want to thank you for your remarkable attention and your seriousness of purpose befitting your office. We have offered you overwhelming and irrefutable and certainly unrefuted evidence that former President Trump incited this insurrection against us. To quote the statement Representative Liz Cheney made in January, quote, on January 6, 2021, a violent mob attacked the United States Capitol to obstruct the process of our democracy and stop the counting of presidential electoral votes. This insurrection caused injury, death, and destruction in the most sacred space in our republic. She continued.
Yes, right.
Representative Cheney continued. Much more will become clear in coming days and weeks, but what we know now is enough. The President of the United States summoned this mob, assembled this mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. None of this would have happened without the President. The president could have immediately and forcefully intervened to stop the violence. He did not. There has never been a greater betrayal by the President of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. I
Yeah,
will vote
mind
to
you,
impeach the
he
president.
had the option or ability.
Representative Cheney was right.
He absolutely
She
had
based
the
her vote
option or
on the
ability to call in the
facts,
National Guard.
on the
It
evidence,
actually had to
and on the
be
Constitution.
Mike Pence that had
The
to step in
evidence,
and do
the
that
video,
because he just didn't want
documentary,
to.
Eyewitness has only grown stronger and stronger and more detailed right up till today, right up to 10 minutes ago, over the course of this Senate trial. And I have no doubt that you all noticed that despite the various propaganda reels and so on, President Trump's lawyers have said almost nothing to contest or overcome the actual evidence of former President Trump's conduct that we presented, much less have they brought their client forward to tell us his side of the story. We sent him a letter.
Right,
last week
exactly.
which
Like
they
I don't
rejected out
know
of
how
hand. The
clear
former president of the United
this
States
could be. Like how any more
refused to
clear
come and
this
tell us, and I ask
open and
any of
shut
you,
case. I mean,
if you were
it's
charged with inciting violent insurrection against our country,
so. Let me tell you. Okay,
you were
real
falsely
quick, just to
accused,
give
would you
you
come and
a
testify?
perspective or an
I know
example.
I would. I'd be there.
So, for example, like the people in just to give you a quick example, like the people from who got arrested on felony charges for inciting riots. One example would be the Proud Boys leaders who got caught with a felony charge in attempt to incite riots. There have been numerous Proud Boy people who have been charged with inciting riots. They got charged, caught, and convicted with less evidence than this. I mean, this is like some, and again, I'd like to point out that we literally watched this live. I mean, how much clear cut case do you need than this?
Cowardly attempt to punish her for telling the truth to her constituents and her country and voting for impeachment. Who says you can't stand up against bullies? Who says? In my mind, Liz Cheney is a hero for standing up for
Yeah,
the
I could
truth
see that. Imagine if he did
and
actually say
resisting
stop
this
and they would listen to him.
retaliatory cancel
Ooh, that would be
culture,
weird. I mean, but either way, that
she
would
was
have still been the
subjected
right thing to
But
do.
she beat
Be like,
them
hey,
on a
everybody,
vote
like
of
enough. Like, what are you doing?
145 to 61.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
1
This
vote.
isn't a criminal trial. That's true.
You know, Ben
But
Franklin,
either way, like,
a
there's
great
got to be
champion of enlightenment,
consequences.
an enemy
But
of political
we're relying
fanaticism and cowardice.
we're relying
And of
on
course, another great Philadelphian
17
once wrote this.
GOP
I have observed that wrong
17
is
GOP
always growing more
senators to
wrong
do the right thing.
until there is no bearing it anymore. And that right, however opposed,
Yeah, then
comes
what
right at
happens
last.
when you allow this type of stuff to
comes right at last.
be
Think about
completely without any repercussions? Is that it becomes
that. Home of the brave, land of the free. The America of Ben Franklin,
you know,
who said,
repercussions.
if you make
If there's no
yourself a sheep,
repercussions,
the
then
wolves will
anybody
eat you.
can do this.
Don't make yourself a sheep.
It would make it okay.
The wolves will eat you.
And the idea that just because you did it on your last
America
like
of
2
Thomas
weeks or 3
Jefferson,
weeks before office,
who said it in another
and
difficult
that you
moment,
shouldn't be
"A
charged
little
because
patience
that's
and
it,
you
you're
shall
gone
see
anyways. Like
the
no.
reign of witches pass over.
Yeah, no,
Their
that's some
spirits
cartoonish,
dissolve, and the people,
supervillain stuff.
recovering their
Ziodu.
true sight, restore their government.
Yeah,
to
no,
its
I
true
just,
principles.
yeah, it's just like there's a clear cut
The America of Tom
time
Paine
frame
said,
as
"The
to what
mind,
happened
once
here.
enlightened, cannot
And
again
anything,
become dark."
I mean, anyone
Now, we
who
showed you hour
who
after
saw
hour of
and
real-time
who
evidence demonstrating
looked at all
every
the
step
video footage,
of
and
Donald
now
Trump's
even
constitutional
more,
crime. We showed you how he indoctrinated the mob with his Orwellian propaganda
and
about
he
how the election
and
was
and the
lost by
new
more than
video that
7
was
million
released
votes and 360
with
to
Capitol
232
the Capitol
in
Hill,
electoral, in
you
the
know,
electoral college,
closed circuit
which he had described
security
as
cams.
a
I mean,
landslide when
we
he
saw
won by
just
the
how bad
exact
it
same
was.
margin
He
in
clearly incited it all,
2016,
but just in
was
terms of why,
actually a landslide
he wouldn't be
victory
so
for
quick to
him
show control.
being stolen away by a bipartisan
I'm gonna go see if I can
conspiracy
rustle up a cat.
and fraud and
Yes.
corruption.
They're hiding, so
We
it
showed
might
you
take
how
me a minute.
61 courts and 88 judges, federal, state, local, trial, appellate.
Yeah,
From
I
the
don't think it
lowest courts in the
matters
land
like
to the
what
United States
his
Supreme Court across the
what his
street, and
mindset
8
was
federal
in.
judges he
It's the
himself
consequences
named
of what
to the
happened and
bench.
why he
All found no basis in
refused to
fact
take
or
any
law
action
for his
regardless, even as
outlandish
not
and
just Mike
deranged
Pence, but
inventions and
several other
concoctions about
GOP
the election.
members,
In the meantime,
lawmakers, senators, and
President Trump tried to
congresspeople
bully
alike
state-level
called
officials
him
to commit a
repeatedly
fraud on
and
the
told
public
him,
by
please
literally finding votes.
do something, send in the National
Examine the
Guard,
case study
do
of Georgia,
anything.
where he called to threaten Republican Brad Raffensperger to find
It was
him
Mike Pence who did it.
11,780 votes.
It was Mike
That's all
Pence
he
who called the
wanted, he
National
said.
Guard.
11,780 votes. Don't we all? 11,780 votes. That's all he wanted to nullify Biden's
Right, so his
victory
intended
to
outcome
win
is
the election.
irrelevant.
Raffensperger ended up with savage death threats against him and his family, telling him he deserved a firing squad. Another election official
Right,
urged
if they
Trump
let
to
this
cut it
slide
out
without
where
any
people would
type
get
of
hurt and killed.
repercussions, anything, and like again, the
prescient
bare
warning indeed. Raffensperger ended up saying if he and his family
minimum
supported Donald Trump,
anybody can
gave
do
him
in
money,
this situation
and
is
now
to
Trump
impeach
threw
him
us
and bar
under
him
the
from
bus.
running
We saw
ever
what
again
happened in
and
Lansing,
holding
Michigan,
public office
with the
ever again.
extremist mob he cultivated, which led to 2 shocking
that is the
Capitol
bare
sieges and a
minimum.
criminal conspiracy by extremists to
In a
kidnap and likely
just
assassinate Governor
world,
Whitmer. We saw him trying to get
he would
state
face criminal
legislatures
charges,
to
but we know
disavow
that's
and
most likely not
overthrow
going to
their
happen.
popular election
But
results
yeah,
and replace them with Trump electors.
I mean,
We showed you
the
process
people
of
who went
summoning the
against
mob,
the dear
reaching out,
leader
urging people to come to Washington
because
for
they
a
wouldn't
wild
fall through
time.
with what he was saying,
celebrate
because there was
President's
no
Day on
evidence
Monday,
of him,
think-
of what any of the
Imagine.
stuff that he was claiming.
Is there another president in our history who would urge supporters to come to Washington for a wild time? You saw how he embraced violent extremist elements like the Proud Boys, who were told in a nationally televised presidential candidate debate to stand back and stand by, which became their official slogan.
And
as
sorry,
they
I was
converged
just
on
like I
Washington
lost my
with
track,
other
my train
extremist
of
and
thought.
seditious
But
groups
like the
and
idea
competed
that
to
they
be the
wouldn't
lead
that
stormtroopers
even
of the
even
attack on
the
this
GOP
building.
controlled
You saw the assembly
state
of the mob on
legislators were
January
getting death
6th.
threats because
And
they
how
wouldn't
beautiful that angry
go with
mob
the
must
dear
have
leader. I
looked
mean,
to
come
Donald
on.
Trump as he peered down from the lectern with the seal of the President of the United States of America emblazoned on it. That crowd was filled with extremists in tactical gear, armed to the teeth and ready to fight, and other brawling MAGA supporters.
Hey, Batch, how's
All
it
of
going? They're
this-
not
all
calling
of them
witnesses.
saying,
I thought they
"Stop
voted
this
to.
deal right now." And he said he was going to march with them
I don't know.
to the Capitol.
They said if
even
they let
though
it slide, it's
the
basically a
permit
playbook for anyone that loses an
for the
election to have a
rally
last-ditch Hail
specifically
Mary on their way
forbade
out
a
of
march.
office. Yeah.
But he said
And
he
like
would
the
march
fact
with
that
them,
like
giving them more comfort that what they
I
were
mean,
doing
no,
was
it just
legitimate.
cannot
It was
be.
okay.
I mean, you just can't
But of
allow
course, he
this.
stayed back as he
Like
presumably
there has to
didn't
be a
want
fine line to
be
make
too
sure that
close
there's
to
a
the
strong rebuke
action
of
at
what
the
happened,
Capitol, as the
and
lawyers
just
called it.
as a
Not an
this is
insurrection,
just
they
not
urged us
not a
yesterday.
thing
It's
that
an
happens in
action.
the United States. You
He
just
didn't
can't
want to
allow
be too
this.
close to the action when all
That's it.
hell was about to break
And
loose.
the state
Now,
of Georgia currently is
incitement, as we've discussed,
potentially opening an investigation
requires an
into
inherently
election fraud.
fact-based evidentiary inquiry.
Yeah,
This is what we did.
I thought they did vote to call in witnesses. I'm pretty sure that.
Gave you
But
many
didn't we just
hours
see
of
that on the
specific
screen?
Factual details about, to use Congresswoman Cheney's words, how the president summoned the mob, assembled the mob, incited it, lit the match, sending them off to the Capitol, where they thought, as they yelled out, that they'd been invited.
Did they vote today?
by
Yeah,
the
I'm
President
pretty
of the
sure.
United
Like,
States.
okay, I didn't see
then,
the
of course,
vote,
they
but I'm pretty sure that I saw when I clicked on the live stream
violence
that
against
says
our overwhelmed
that it
and
said that they voted to
besieged
call
but
in
heroic
witnesses. I could be
police
wrong,
officers who you
but I could have sworn I
thoughtfully
saw that
honored
earlier.
yesterday when the officers got in their way as they entered the Capitol at the behest of the President of the United States to stop the steal. Now, I'm convinced most senators
Oh, in the morning it was
must
55
be
to 45,
convinced by
gotcha.
this overwhelming and specific detail, because most Americans are. But say you still have your doubts. You think the president really thought that he was sending his followers to participate in a peaceful, nonviolent rally, the kind that might have been organized by Julian Bond, who my distinguished opposing counsel brought up, Ella Baker, Bob Moses, our late beloved colleague John Lewis.
Yeah,
the Student
irrelevant.
Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Irrelevant.
Maybe the president really thought this was going to be like the March on Washington organized by Bayard Rustin and Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, nonviolence is the answer to the crucial moral and political questions of our
The
time.
protection for
So let's
presidents are
say you're
far
still
too
flirting
wide-ranging.
with the
True.
idea
Couldn't
that
believe how
Donald
fast,
Trump's
how
conduct
fast they
was
got through the
totally
staff just
appropriate,
trying to find someone that
as
would
he
stop,
proclaimed,
stoop to
right
his
off the
level.
bat. And he's the
Shouldn't they
innocent
have
victim of
fewer
a mass
powers? Yes, they
accident
should.
or a catastrophe like a fire or a flood, as we were invited to
Including
frame it,
Lindsey Graham, which I
on
don't
our
get.
opening
I don't
day
know.
by,
Who knows? Maybe
distinguished co-counsel,
it's another
opposing
fleeing
counsel.
rat
And you
off the
think
ship,
maybe
off the
we're just
sinking
looking
ship.
for somebody to blame for this nightmare and catastrophe that has befallen
If the representatives used
Republic. We're just
institutional
looking for
powers given
someone
to them in
blame.
accordance with their
Well, here's
purpose,
the
we
key
would not need to
question,
rethink
then,
presidential
in
powers.
resolving your
Oh
doubts
yeah,
here in
like
that
this
category.
is. Oh wait a
How
minute.
did
No,
Donald
Rye
Trump
pulls up a
react
good
when he
a
learned
good
of the
point,
violent storming
because
of the
they
Capitol
had this
and the
option
threats to
from the
senators,
first impeachment trial.
members of the House,
They had
and his
this
own
option.
vice president,
Remember
as
during the
well
first
as
impeachment trial,
the
they said,
images
you
he
know
saw
what?
on TV
If they allow
of the
this guy to
pummeling
continue,
and beating and
things are
harassment
he's gonna do
of
something
our
even
police
even
officers.
crazier.
Did he spring into
And
action to stop the violence?
people thought
and
it
save
was
us?
it was
Did he even
not
wonder
true.
about
it
his
was a
own
meme, it was a
security, since
joke,
an
you know.
out-of-control
Oh, you know, this
anti-government
guy, he's just
mob
clown
could
shoes.
come after him
He's
too?
just a clown. He's not
Did he quickly try to get
actually
in
gonna
touch
do
with
anything.
or denounce the
And here we
Proud
are.
Boys, the Oath Keepers, the rally organizers, the Save America rally organizers, and everyone on the extreme right to tell them that this was not what he had in mind? It was a big mistake. Call it off, call it off, call it off, as Representative Gallagher begged him to do on national television? No. He delighted in it. He
So yeah, I
reveled in
think
it.
you're right,
He
right?
exulted in it.
You know,
He
we
could
we
not
have
understand why the people around
quote
him
unquote
did not share his
checks and
delight.
balances
And
that
then a long period
normally
of silence ensued
would
while the
allow
mob
us to deal with
beat the daylights
someone
out
like
of
this,
police
but
officers and
they
invaded
weren't
this
used.
building,
So I
as you
think
saw in
that you're
security
right.
footage, and
It was just a
proceeded to
lack of
hunt
will to
down
pull
Vice
the trigger.
President Mike Pence as a traitor and denounced and cursed Speaker Pelosi, both of whom you heard mob members say they wanted to kill. They were both in real danger. And our government could have been thrown into absolute turmoil without the heroism of our officers and the bravery and courage of a lot of people in this room. Here's what Republican Representative Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio said. He's a former pro football player. We are imploring the president to help, to stand up, to help defend the United States Capitol and the United States Congress, which is under attack. We are begging, essentially, and he was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, because he doesn't care.
Nowhere to be found.
You know,
And as
all of
I've
these like
emphasized this
GOP
morning,
people who
that
like fell
dereliction of
behind the
duty,
president
that desertion
and are
of
now
duty
like
was central to his
playing
incitement of insurrection
playing
and
the
inextricable
surprised
from
Pikachu
it.
face, like
Inextricable, bound together. It reveals his state of mind that day, what he was thinking as he provoked the mob to violence and further violence. It shows how he perpetuated his continuing offense on January 6th, his course of conduct charged in the article of impeachment as he
one
further
no chump
incited the
delight.
mob during the attack, aiming it at
Yeah.
Vice President Mike
no
Pence
chump
himself,
delight.
while failing to quell it in either of his roles as Commander-in-Chief or his real role that day, Inciter-in-Chief. And it powerfully demonstrates that the ex-president knew, of course, that violence was foreseeable, that it was predictable and predicted. That day, since he was not surprised and not horrified, no, he was delighted, and through his acts of omission and commission that day, he abused his office by siding with the insurrectionists at almost every point, rather than with the Congress of the United States, rather than with the Constitution. In just a moment, my colleague, Mr. Cicilline, will address President Trump's conduct, his actions and inactions, his culpable state of mind during the attack, as he will establish yesterday's explosive revelations about House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's desperate call to Trump.
He's not
and
con-
Trump's
if he's not
truly
convicted,
astounding reaction
prepare to
confirm
2020,
that
prepare
Trump
for
was doing
2024 unless he
nothing
dies from like
to
a
help
Diet
the
Coke
people in this
poisoning or
room
gets too
or
tired.
this building. It's now clear beyond doubt that Trump supported
Boy, this guy can talk. He's a
the
liar.
actions of the
He's a
mob,
lawyer.
and
Yeah,
so
of course.
He must be convicted.
Like, their job
It's
is
that
to
simple.
talk.
When he took the stage on January 6th, he knew exactly how combustible the situation was. He knew there were many people in the crowd who were ready to jump into action, to engage in violence.
Not only
at
is he a
any
lawyer,
signal
but he's
that he
also
needed them to
a
fight like hell to stop the steal. And that's exactly what he told them to do.
Not only is he a
Then
lawyer,
aimed
but he's
them
also
straight here, right down Pennsylvania at the
A
Capitol,
politician.
where he told them that the steal was occurring, that is the counting of the Electoral College votes. And we all know what happened next.
He needs
They
better
attacked this
shirts.
building, they disrupted the peaceful transfer
He's a
of
law
power,
professor, I
they
think.
injured and
Yeah, yeah.
killed
He's
people,
he's not only
convinced that
wow.
they
If
were
he's a
acting
law
on
professor,
his
a
instructions
practicing
and with
lawyer,
his
and
approval
a
and protection.
politician,
And while that happened, he further
yeah, of course,
incited them
these guys can
while
talk for
failing
their
to
job is
defend
talk.
us. If that's not ground for conviction,
Better
if
taste in
that's
chunk.
not a high
I don't
crime
think
and
any of that is
misdemeanor
relevant.
against the Republic in the United States of America, then nothing is. President Trump must be convicted for the safety and security of our democracy and our people.
Like
Mr. Cicilline.
I think that a lot of these things could be said in less words, and I think that the embellishment, the embellishing like the embellishing rhetoric, yeah, it's good, but I don't think it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just me,
Distinguished senators,
maybe it's just me, but
as we've demonstrated,
yeah, he's a
there is
doctor of law. This guy's
overwhelming
legit.
evidence that
Okay.
President Trump
Yeah, maybe it's
incited
just
the
me, but
violence
like I think
and
that
knew violence was foreseeable on January 6th. He knew that many in
I
the crowd were posed
I take
for
things a little bit
violence at his
differently.
urging.
If I was there,
And in fact,
my
many
speech
in
would
the sea of
probably be
thousands
like
in the crowd were
a total
wearing
of like 2
body
minutes.
armor and helmets
I
and
think
holding
my speech
sticks
would be like 2
and
minutes. Like,
flagpoles.
guys,
And then
nobody
he
here
not
is
only
fooled.
provoked that very same crowd,
Nobody here is
but
fooled.
aimed them at
Nobody
the
here who
Capitol.
has any type
He
of
literally
reasonable,
pointed at this
anyone
building, at us,
reasonable would
during his
see
speech.
the events
pointed to the
as they
building where Congress
happened,
was going to
as more
certify
footage
the
came
election
out,
results,
and as
where he knew
newly
the
released
vice
footage
president
and
himself
calls and
was
different
presiding over the
testimonies from
process.
different representatives,
Now, no one is
GOP
suggesting that
representatives,
President Trump intended every
the vice
detail
president,
of what happened on January
the officials
6th.
in Georgia,
But when he
can
directed the sea of
come away with
thousands
this with
before
like
him,
without
who were
with
reportedly
nothing
ready to
less
engage in
than
real
this guy
violence,
is
when
this
he told
guy's
that crowd to
intentions
fight like
were
hell,
extremely clear.
he incited
This guy's
violence
intentions were
targeted at the
extremely
Capitol,
clear. We
and he
were
most
warned about this.
certainly
He
foresaw it.
himself warned. He himself
My
told
colleague,
us what he
Commander
was
Dean
going
will
to do
stand up after
months
me
in
and walk you
advance.
through the overwhelming evidence that supports those claims. I want to start, though, by talking about what happened after that. There was a lot of discussion yesterday about what the president knew and when he knew it. There are certain things that we do not know about what the president did that day, because the president, that is former President Trump, has remained silent about what he was doing during one of the bloodiest attacks on our Capitol.
Oh, he
since
specializes in
1812.
constitutional law.
Despite
Nice.
a full
They could have
and
just shown
fair
the evidence, but they need to
opportunity
make more play about the
come
whole thing.
forward,
They've
he's
got 8 hours to
refused
fill.
come and
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
his
yeah.
story.
I mean, it's just simple. Like,
As Manager Raskin said, we
just
would all
show
do
like
that.
the chronological
In
orders
fact, I
of
would
events,
insist on
and
it. If
that's
I were
it. I mean,
accused of a grave and
I don't
serious
understand.
crime
Like
that
some
I
of
was
these
innocent of,
senators who are
I would
sitting here right
demand the
now,
right to tell my
like
side of the story.
we're a part of it in
President
terms
Trump's
of like
crime.
they lived it. So I
But
don't like
there
what
are
is there
certain
to
facts
discuss
that are
here?
undisputed, that
Like
we know to be
these
true
senators,
despite
not
the
only
president's
not only the
refusal to
Republican
testify,
senators, but
which his
the
counsel
Democratic
either ignored
senators and the
entirely
lawmakers that were there
or
that day that
didn't
experienced
and
this
couldn't dispute.
um,
Before I go to those facts, let me quickly just
were
touch
there.
on a
I
few
mean,
things. First, President Trump and his counsel have
so
resorted to
what
arguments
else is
that
there to
the
discuss? I
evidence
mean, you
presented
guys
was somehow
know.
manufactured or
Vice
hidden from
President
them.
Mike Pence knows
And I want to
what
be very
happened.
clear about this because this is
He
important.
tried calling the
In
president
terms of the
multiple
timing
times.
of when they received
Representative
materials here,
Kevin McCarthy,
Defense Counsel
Minority
had
Leader
access to all
Kevin
materials
McCarthy,
when
was
they were
there.
entitled to
He
have
knew
them
what
under
happened.
Senate
He called the
Resolution
president.
47.
They had a shouting
and
match.
they cannot and have not alleged otherwise.
Representative
As
Lindsey
to their
Graham
desperate
was
claim
there.
that evidence was somehow
Or Senator
manufactured,
Lindsey
they
Graham
have
was
not
there.
alleged that one tweet from their client was actually inaccurate, nor can it.
Begging, screaming
got these
at the
tweets, which
president
are, of
too,
course, statements
screaming
from
at
the former
everybody,
president
according to
from a
other
public
reports.
archive, and they are all correct. You also
This
know
isn't
the
a test of what
president's claims about
was it
evidence
bad
being
there that day, but
manipulated
test if did he
also
incite
are
it?
untrue because
Yeah, of course.
they
But
didn't
like
even
that's my
object to
point. The point is that
introduction of the evidence when they
they
had the
knew
opportunity to do so.
that this was at
So
the
I hope we
behest
can now set
of
those
the
issues
president
aside and
because
turn to the facts of this
why
case and really set the record straight about the
why would they
undisputed facts
why
of
would
this
they
case,
spend
about what the president knew that day
hours
and when he knew it. And at the outset, let me
begging
say this. As you may recall, in
him
direct
to stop,
response to a question
begging
yesterday,
him
President
to
Trump's
call in
counsel
the
stated,
National
and I
Guard and
quote,
begging him
"At
to
no
call off
point
his
was the
supporters
president informed
if
the
he
vice
wasn't the one
president
that
was
didn't
in
incite it. That's my
any
point.
End quote. As we walk through these undisputed facts, you will see
Oh, they
quite
did that just to
clearly
make him look bad.
it is
It's a
simply
conspiracy.
not.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy.
As you can see here from
Yeah, and
just
yet he's gonna
after
walk
12
no conviction.
p.m.
That's my guess.
to
Same.
Just before 2 p.m.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get
President
convicted.
Trump delivered his statements at the rally.
Yeah, that's
which
look. Here we go.
incited an initial
Easy,
wave
easy, folks.
of
Most likely
riot
17
protesters
Republicans
coming
with
down to
Democrats
the
is wishful
Capitol.
thinking. Yep. I think
And
Trump's
his
attempt to
speech was
legitimize
still
November is
ongoing,
his major
and
crime.
you saw
The
the
January
evidence
6th
of
riot is
people
the climax, a long
broadcasting
chain of
that on
events,
their
aside from the
phones.
loss of life, Trump's attack on
He
the election,
finished his speech
and
at about
worst long-term
1:11
consequences like the
p.m., at
lost
which
cause
point a
ideology of the
much
South.
larger
True.
wave surged toward us here at the Capitol, ripping down
tried turning that
scaffolding and
light on.
triggering calls for law enforcement
Hey. What happened?
assistance. 30 minutes later, at 1:49, the situation here drastically deteriorated.
Okay. Ah, here we are.
Insurrectionists breached the Capitol barriers.
Yeah,
then its
this is it, right
steps,
here.
Then the complex
That's
itself.
it.
By 2:12, the insurrectionist mob had overwhelmed
Just
the
show a chain
police
of events.
and started their violent
Anybody who was
attack on the
there
Capitol.
knows what happened.
And as you all know,
Knows,
this attack
and again,
occurred
my point of bringing
played
all
out
that
on
up of the
live
people that were
television.
there live
Every major
experiencing
network
this is
was showing it.
because
We've
to bring
shown
up
you during the
that
course of this trial, side by side, exactly what the president would have
it
seen
is
on
to bring
TV
up that
or his
point that
Twitter
they
account.
were begging
We've
him
also
to
shown you that
stop.
he would have seen
They were
around
begging
2:12
him
p.m.
to call off his
images of Vice
supporters.
President Pence
In other
being
words,
rushed off the
they
Senate
knew
floor.
he if he
Now,
didn't
I won't
incite it,
replay
well,
all of
why would
that,
they call him?
for you, but for
Why
timing
wouldn't they just
purposes,
say like, hey, you know
here's
what?
the footage reacting
I don't
to
know why
Vice
this mob
President
is here,
Pence
but we need to
leaving the
like
floor.
send in like the National Guard or something. Why
Why
would they be desperate, and why would they call him repeatedly over and over and over again to call off his supporters if he himself wasn't the one that incited it? That's it. I mean, like, case closed.
Defense
Holy
counsel
crap.
seems to suggest that somehow the President of the United States was not aware of this. That the President had no idea that his Vice President had been evacuated from the Senate floor
Squeaky.
for his safety because violent
As
rioters
promised,
had broken into
Saturday,
the Capitol,
Caturday,
with thousands
top,
more coming.
Squeaky
With the
vision.
Capitol Police
Squeaky vision,
completely
yes, that's the new
overwhelmed.
camera angle. Squeaky
This was
vision.
on
And if
live
it's
television.
Bailey, it's Bailey vision.
So defense counsel is suggesting that the President of the United States knew less about this than the American people.
I thought it would be the Bailey broadcast, but
Possible.
The Bailey podcast.
The
broadcast.
Secret
Oh, the
Service-
Bailey broadcast.
This
Oh,
is just
Squeaky, look at you looking at me.
Oh no, no,
Like-
it has
The
to
Secret
happen. Of course,
Service
this
failed to
isn't like,
mention that his
oh
Vice
well,
President
you know, we shouldn't do
was
this
being
because he's
rushed
not
from
gonna
the
get
Senate for his
convicted
own
anyways. No, no,
protection.
it still has to happen.
that nobody in the White House thought to alert him. That none of our law enforcement agencies raised a concern.
Right, he is like a mob boss.
Concern to the commander in chief that the vice president was being evacuated from the Senate floor as a violent mob assaulted the Capitol.
Dang, I'm gonna have to get a light
With
for the
each passing
cats.
minute on the timeline
Yeah.
of events on January 6th,
Yeah, it
grows
needs to be
more and
done
more
like for posterity,
inconceivable.
not necessarily for conviction. Like
continue
it
forward in
doesn't
time.
matter. Like you just can't
Between
let this go.
2:12 to
And at least
2:24,
the House
Senate
has a duty to
recessed.
do.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi was
regardless.
ushered off the floor. The Capitol Police announced a breach and a lockdown.
Yeah,
The
he
insurrectionist
does
mob
talk like a
began
mob boss. It's
chanting,
like, you know,
"Hang
the whole
Mike
reason
Pence."
for the first
It was
impeachment was the
unfolding on live
I'd
TV
like you to do me a
in
favor
front
though.
of the entire world.
You know, kind of deal. It's like,
So again, let me ask you, does
I'm
it
not
strike you as
saying,
credible that nobody, not a single person,
I'm not
informed the
saying
president
that
his vice
you
president
should
had
do
been
anything
evacuated?
to Mike
Or
Pence.
that the president
I'm just saying that he's
didn't glance at the
quite the
television
traitor, you know?
or his Twitter account.
Quite a traitor, and anybody
learn about the
who
events that
behaves in
happened.
that matter is
Remember,
also a traitor.
this was the
But
day of the
I'm not
electoral
saying nothing
college.
should happen, you know?
Remember his obsession
okay,
with
dude.
stopping the certification. It's just not credible that the president at no point knew his vice
Now he
president
can be the
was
only
in this
president who can impeach twice, so
building
at least it's
and
marked down
was in
for
real
posterity.
danger.
Yeah.
Senators, I submit to you these facts. This timeline is undisputed. At 2:24 p.m., after rioters breached the barriers,
I mean, how wild is
after
it
calls
where
for assistance, after rioters stormed the building, after Vice
How
President
wild
Pence
is
was
it
rushed from the Senate floor,
where you
and
have an
just
impeach
before
like
Vice President
I
Pence
know
was
it's not like a
further
criminal
evacuated
trial
for his
and it
safety,
doesn't work
President
in this
Trump
in
decided to
in the same way
attack
as a criminal
his own
trial
Vice
or even a
President on
civil
Twitter.
trial. This is like a
The
just
undisputed
a
facts
completely like
confirm
political thing.
that not only must President
But
Trump have been aware
imagine
of the
like
Vice President's
imagine
danger,
this scenario
but he still sent out a
where
tweet attacking him,
the
further inciting the
jurors
very mob
of a trial are the same as the victims of the trial, because I mean, that's what
The Vice
happened.
President was there
The
with his family.
the lawmakers that were there were
danger for his
absolutely in
life.
trouble.
They were
They were
chanting,
they were
"Hang Mike
victims
Pence," and had
in this
erected
trial,
a
but
noose
they're also the
outside.
jurors, and
And
yet
as we've shown, the mob
and
responded
yet they
to President Trump's
most
attack
likely, I mean,
instantly.
unless
The tweet
something
was read aloud on a
wild
bullhorn,
happens,
if you remember that video.
the
Insurrectionists began
expectation
chanting
is that
again
they will
about
not
Mike
convict.
Pence. And in those critical moments, we see President Trump engaging
This
in
is
a
some
dereliction
like
of his duty
borderline
by
Stockholm
further
syndrome.
inciting the mob in
Imagine
real time to target the
being
vice president with
the
knowledge that
victim
the
of
insurrection
this
was ongoing,
and still not
and
convicting.
that's, of course, included in the conduct charged in this article of impeachment. The former president's counsel's suggestion otherwise is completely wrong.
If any other race offense
His
had to hide
further
from Trump's mob,
incitement
yeah,
is
I mean,
impeachable conduct
there's at least a 2 years history
continued
insinuating
during the
election
course
fraud
of this
before the general
assault
elections. On
itself,
top
and
of
it's
that, oh yeah,
part of a
yeah,
constitutional crime and was entirely and
yeah.
completely
Even when he won in
part of his
2016, he said there was
indefensible
millions
failure
of
to
fraudulent.
protect the Congress.
Even when he won, he said that there was millions of
Now, there's been
fraudulent
some
votes
confusion as
and
to the phone call I referenced with Senator Lee.
millions of
So I want to be clear about
millions of
certain facts that are
illegals
not in dispute.
illegals
First, Senator Lee has
voted,
confirmed that the call
and
occurred at 2:26 p.m.
that's
So
why
I've added
Hillary
that
won
to
the popular
timeline
vote.
above.
You know,
Remember, by this
when
phone call, the vice
in reality
president
that
has
just didn't
just been
happen,
evacuated on
and
live
the
television
voter
for his own
integrity
safety.
commission that he
And Donald
put
Trump
together
had, after that,
never
tweeted an attack on him, which the
never
insurgents read
found
on a
any
bullhorn.
remote
And a few minutes after Donald
evidence
Trump's tweet,
of his
he
claims
didn't reach out to
and was
check on the
disbanded a
vice
year later
president's
in
safety.
2017, I believe.
He called a senator to
Hey,
ask
IQ Andy, how's it
about
going?
delaying the certification.
When was your
Call
last
was
trip to North
interrupted.
Carolina?
Senator
Uh,
Tuberville has
never.
since explained, and I quote, "I looked at the phone and it said the White House on it. I said hello.
never been to North
The
Carolina.
president said a few words.
I've been to
I
South
said,
Carolina.
Mr. President, they're
I've been
taking
to
the
Tennessee.
vice president out, and they want me to get off
I've been
the
to
phone,
Georgia.
and I've got to
I've been
go."
to what other
That was
states
his
have I been
second
to?
evacuation that day. A minute later, live feeds documented the insurgents chanting, "Mike Pence is a traitor." At this point, even if somehow he'd missed it earlier,
What up, cheese?
inconceivable that the former president was
You should
unaware
visit. Yeah,
that the
I should
vice
visit a lot of
president was in
places.
danger.
What about California? Never been.
What does the president do?
It's only like an hour away. We'll go next time
Does he
you come
rush
back
to
up.
secure the Capitol?
I
I'll
think
take
Roger
you
Stone
to
secured
Halo.
To quell the mob?
the main stop to steal
Does he
before the
call
election
his vice
started.
president
Wow.
to check on his safety. We all know the answer to those questions too. There can be no dispute.
What made of
He
cheese
took none
so
of
it
those
spoils?
Not
Nah, that's a waste of
single
cheese.
one. Even after learning that senators were being evacuated and that Vice President Pence had also been evacuated.
Did you ever
He
visit the
did
Republican
nothing
Nation? He lives in Fort Myers.
help the vice
No, but I figured he was a Florida man, just
here's
based off
some
his
more
actions
evidence,
and
that
his
we've
not his
censored.
actions, his accent.
At some
I'm
point
old
over
enough
the
to remember
following
Watergate,
30
but you
minutes,
guys and
President
gals know
Trump
witness
spoke
the
to
most escapes
Minority
off
Leader Kevin
in the industry.
McCarthy.
The White House is occupied by
And as
paranoid
Representative
conspiracy
Jamie
theorists.
Herrera
Oof.
Butler has revealed, evidence that now has been
Stone launched stopped to steal in
stipulated as part of the
2016. Jesus.
evidentiary
Ever been out of
record.
the country? Yes, I have.
In that conversation, Kevin McCarthy is pleading with the former president to do something. He first tries
Now
to
it just directs to his own
assign
website.
the
Oh,
blame
so
to
he's
another group, and Leader McCarthy says, "No, these are your supporters, Mr. President."
well, Kevin.
What does the president say in response?
Well, Kevin.
Not
this is like some mean
"Send people
girls. I'm
right
like, how
away. Didn't
petty?
realize you were in danger.
How petty?
He says, "Well, Kevin," and I quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are."
Well,
End
Kevin.
quote.
Well, Kevin.
Forever
I guess these
memorialized.
people are more
Well,
upset
Kevin.
about the election than you
That
are.
might be what I have to name my new Jeep.
The
My new
president,
Jeep.
just as he conveyed in that tweet at 6:01,
Well, Kevin.
was essentially saying,
Maybe these people
"Got what you deserve."
cared more about the election than you did.
Let me say that again. Not only was the president fully aware of the vice president's situation,
It could have been
the
attacking
situation
Pence and
that we
Trump
were
and would have been
all
like, he
in
shouldn't have done his job.
when he was asked
And
for help.
no, this is
He
just
was
like
asked to defend the
beyond.
Capitol less than
I mean,
30
like, and
minutes
again, now
after
that they are,
inciting this violence against
you
his
know,
own vice president.
putting forth new
President
information,
Trump
putting forth new
refused.
because I didn't
that
know about the
request for
Kevin McCarthy
assistance.
call. This is
And
new.
he
This
told
is
us
like
why.
borderline breaking
His
news. I think this
singular
happened
focus,
either yesterday or the day.
stopping the certification of the election of his opponent.
This must have happened today or
He incited the violence to stop the certification.
this
He attacked
morning
the
or
vice
yesterday,
president and
because this is
further
news to
incited the
me. I
insurrection
did not
to
know that
pressure the vice
call
president
with
to
Kevin
stop
McCarthy
the
even
certification.
existed.
He called Senator Tuberville to stop the certification, and he refused to send help to Congress. And this Congress and the Vice President of the United States were in mortal danger because he wanted to stop.
Will
the
Kevin replace
certification.
OK Boomer? I don't know.
And he did these things.
How is
attacking the Vice President,
how is Pence's wife
calling
okay
Senator
with this? Why didn't
refusing
Mother say?
Representative McCarthy's request with full knowledge
Um,
of the violent attack that was underway at that point.
I don't know how true this is.
He chose
So
retaining his own
allegedly,
power over the safety of Americans.
actually, Pence's wife
I
is kind
can't
of like
imagine more damning
from
evidence of his state of mind.
leading into the
call
Trump
ended with a
presidency.
screaming match interrupted by
She
violent
was
rioters
very
breaking through the windows of Representative McCarthy's office.
concerned and was
Senators,
not
the
liking
president
where things were
knew this
going.
was happening.
So
He didn't
I
do
think that
anything
she
to
did
help his vice
mention that
president
to him,
or any of you,
and
or any of the brave officers
Mike
and
Pence
other
just said, "Well,
employees
we're here
serving
now,
the American people
and
that
this is
day.
just the way it is." I
His
think
sole
something to
focus
that effect. I don't know.
was stealing the
I'm
election
sure that we
for
could
himself.
probably find
And he
the
apparently
article,
has still not thought of anyone
but
else.
absolutely,
According to more
Pence's
new
wife
facts revealed
did
last
did
night,
mention that.
the vice president's team does not agree with the president's counsel or the president's counsel's assessment either. The report, and I quote, says, Pence's team does not agree with the Trump lawyer's assessment that Trump was concerned about Pence's safety. Trump didn't call him that day or for 5 days after that. No one else on Trump's team called as Pence was evacuated to one room in another with screaming mob nearby.
Objection, this is not in evidence. If you wanted a stipulation to this,
The council will sit down.
Senators, remember when
Chair has no way of knowing what material is evidence or not. The counsel for the president will have a chance to speak. And the chair will consider the issue.
Yeah, the
Senators, remember as
the
one of you
article.
said
I think that
during this attack, they could have
this
killed
might be
us
it.
all. Our staff, the officers protecting all of us, everyone. And President Trump not only incited it, but continued inciting it as it occurred with attacks on his vice president, and then willfully refused to defend us, furthering his provocation and incitement by the mob, siding with
Pence's
the mob,
did his duty at
siding
January
with the
6th. I'll
violent
give him.
insurrectionists,
Yeah, I mean,
criminals who
like he
killed
didn't
and
have an
injured
option.
police officers
Like he didn't. Okay,
sworn
so
to
like he
protect
didn't
us
have
because
any
they were,
power to
quote,
do anything
more upset
at
about
that
the
point,
election
right?
than
Like,
Leader McCarthy.
so just to be clear,
Those
like
facts are undisputed.
he did his job in the sense that
President
like
Trump has not
that's what
offered
the
any
purview of his
evidence
job was. He never
or any
had any
argument to
real
disprove
power
them.
to
His
actually
lawyers
throw
almost
the
entirely ignored these
to
facts
actually throw the
in their
election
short
one way or the
presentation.
other.
We have only his counsel's
Yeah, I mean,
false
at least
claim
he
yesterday
committed. At least
that,
he
quote, at no
put on
point
the
was the
facade.
president informed that the vice president was in any danger, end quote. A claim that is refuted not just by common sense, but by the timeline you have seen and also the vice president's legal team. So there can be no doubt that at the moment we most needed a president to preserve, protect, and defend us, President Trump instead willfully betrayed us. He violated his oath. He left all of us, and officers like Eugene Goodman, to our own devices against an attack he had incited and he alone could stop. That is why he must be convicted. And I'd like to conclude by making one final point that follows directly from what I just discussed. Our case and the article of impeachment before you absolutely.
I wonder if Q
includes
Shaman is
President
watching. He should be
Trump's
allowed to testify. He
dereliction
said
of
he would
duty
be
on
willing.
January 6th.
If he was
His
called to the
failure
witness
as
stand, he would be willing.
inciter-in-chief to
He
immediately
already said
quell or
he
call
said
off the
that,
mob. His failure as commander-in-chief to
obviously
immediately do
everyone
everything in his power to secure the
when
Capitol.
faced with federal
That
prison
is
time
a
has it
further
come to
basis
Jesus moment, of
on which
course,
to
too late.
convict,
But
and there can be no
he did
doubt
say
of that.
He'd be willing to
The
testify.
ongoing constitutional misconduct is like any continuing offense, and the proof of that is overwhelming. Most directly, his
If Trump's
dereliction of
acquitted,
duty
it makes
offers
his case harder, no?
conclusive, irrefutable
Who,
evidence
the
that he acted
Q
willfully
shaman? No, I don't think
as
so.
we charge. He wasn't
Already bet on the
furious
outcome. This is
or
easy money. Yeah, he's
sad
probably going
or
to get.
shocked, like virtually everyone else in America.
He's probably going to get
He
acquitted.
was reported by those
A
around
lot of my
him
friends have
as
predicted all sorts of
delighted.
seditious attack by Congress and
Rather
military and
than
others
rush to our
who
aid
are
or
supposedly in
demand
Trump's
his mob
pocket. Most of
retreat,
these predictions have been
watch
wrong,
the
despite giving
attack
us
on
credit.
TV and
Yeah,
praise
I
the
don't.
mob,
I don't
the
think
leader
Pence was
McCarthy, as more loyal to
in.
him.
I think Pence was just
More upset
taking
about the
advantage
election. That's
and
all that
attempting
mattered.
to further his own
His
political
reaction
career.
is also further
And
evidence of his
when he
intent.
realized,
He
as he
acted
realized it
exactly
was
the way a
getting
person
too
would
much,
act if
kind
they
of
had
like
indeed incited the
stepped
mob
back. But like,
to violence to
sorry,
stop
dude.
the steal. Moreover, as I've shown, President Trump's dereliction and desertion of duty includes his decision to further incite the mob,
Like,
even
let's
as he
be very
failed to
clear.
protect us.
The reason why Pence did
While
the
the
thing,
mob hunted Vice President Pence in these very halls, he
the
attacked
things,
Vice President
the
Pence.
reasons why Pence did the things
While
he
he
did,
tried to
up
stop
until the
the
point that he
steal, he
did,
spread
was
the big
for his
lie.
own personal
We
gain.
all saw how his mob responded in real time. This further incitement was part of his dereliction of duty, was also part of his course of conduct, encouraging and provoking the mob to violence.
No, I think the shaman, the
President Trump's
QAnon
dereliction of
shaman's
duty
case
also
is completely
highlights
different.
how
I don't think that it's
foreseeable
going to
the
have any
attack
burden
was to him.
or any
In his
bearing,
tweet
I should
just
say,
after 6 p.m.,
on what
he
happens
said,
to him.
I quote,
Because
"These are the things
this
and
right here
events
is
that
just a
happen
complete
when a sacred landslide
procedure.
election
It's a
victory
political procedure.
is
It's not
so
a real like criminal
unceremoniously and
trial
viciously
or
stripped
civil
away
trial in any way,
from
shape, or
great
form.
patriots
I mean,
who have
like,
been badly and
there's
unfairly
no
treated for so long.
situation
This tweet
where
continued his endorsement of the attack,
there's no situation where the
his
victims of
failure
a
to
crime would
condemn
be
it,
allowed to be
his
a
desertion of duty.
there's no situation where
also
the victims of a
reveals his
crime would be
view
allowed to be
that this was, of
jurors of a
course,
crime,
what would
and there's
happen
no
when
situation
Congress
under which the
refused his
jurors would
demand
be allowed
to
to
reject the election that he continued to tell his
confide with the
supporters was
defense
stolen,
team.
and
So,
he had
like,
actually won in a landslide.
you know,
Again, he wasn't surprised.
this isn't a regular trial in any way,
He
shape,
saw
or
this
form.
as a
This is not a real
predictable
trial.
result
This is
of his
simply a
repeated demands that his
proceeding
followers
that we
stop
have
the steal
as a way of checks and
by any
balances.
means possible. This was all
Isn't it also
connected.
possible that Trump
His
gets convicted
dereliction
in
of
Georgia? It is
duty,
quite possible.
His desertion of duty was part and parcel of the crime charge
It is.
in the impeachment.
I'm not going to say
And
it's going
it's
to
certainly a
happen,
basis
but
on which to
in
vote
any
for conviction.
just world, he
If
would
you
see
believe that he
consequences
willfully
there.
refused to defend
Considering
us
his
and the law
perfect
enforcement
phone
officers
call
fighting
with
to save us,
Raffensperger
and
and
that he was
Brian Kemp
delighted by the attack,
and the
that he saw it as a
CEO, I
natural
think, of
result
Dominion.
his call to stop the steal,
That was like
and that
about
he
an hour
continued to incite
long,
and target violence as the attack unfolded.
full of juicy,
We respectfully submit you
full of
must
juicy
vote
evidence
to
of
convict
clear
and
intent,
disqualify, so that the events
clear intent of
January 6th
election
can
fraud or
never
attempting to
happen
manipulate
again in this
election
country.
results.
Mr. President,
I'd like to call up Ms. Dean.
Mr. President, I've got a point of order.
But I doubt that he'll see any consequences. It's possible, but I doubt that he
Mr.
will.
President, moments ago,
It's also possible that the Southern
House
District of New
Manager
York
Cicilline
may attempt to convict him in some tax fraud or whatever business fraud
Senator
stuff
was
that he's been
told
involved in,
and
even
advised
before
by
he
the
became president.
parliamentarian that debate is not in order.
He did say he was thinking about leaving the country, so if things seem bad, he might. I don't know if he's going to leave the
debate
country.
is not in order because this is not debate. He said something that's not true.
The quorum has been suggested.
There's clearly a quorum, sir.
And the clerk will call the roll.
New York State is terminating his real estate contracts left and right. Lamau. Wait, are they having an argument?
Let's see them hands.
Let's see. As Rudy Giuliani
Is there
said,
objection?
quote, let's have trial by
Objection
combat.
is heard.
Mr. Barrasso.
It takes 3 to 6 months, though? What, to get a legal proceeding? Or you mean, like, terminating contracts, though? Oh, yeah. I mean, either way.
Mr. Bennett.
House impeachment managers were in the middle of their closing arguments here when you heard Senator Mike Lee stand up and object to the remarks made by one of the impeachment managers, David Cicilline, again, objecting to how the characterization of a phone call that President Trump made to, he was trying to reach Tommy Tuberville. Instead, he reached Mike Lee on that day on January 6th. So unsure what will happen with this objection. They're in a quorum call while they talk off microphones. Right now, we'll continue to watch live coverage.
Oh my god. So yeah, like, this is by no means a normal trial in any way, shape, or form. Imagine the jury able to, like, stand up and have objections to the defense. If anything actually interesting happens, it goes on mute. True. Would you ever do an IQ test on stream? No, I might break the IQ, I might break the IQ test, so I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It might shatter. It might shatter the stream. Skating rink is kind of cheap though. Yeah. It would be a perfect test. True. I don't know why an IQ test even matters, to be quite honest. Squeaky. Squeaky cat. I can see you. People who have to boast about their IQ are losers. Yeah, I mean, like, with anything, generally, now this isn't always true, but with anything, generally, if you have to be, like, super boastful about stuff, to project some kind of, like, false, confidence, it probably means you're not what you're talking yourself up to be. Like, for example...
Alright, what'd I miss?
You missed absolutely nothing. These next 5 hours mean nothing. Because we're just gonna watch a bunch of people talk for, like, a while. But yeah, you didn't miss anything. It's like, if I have to constantly boast about, I don't know... I'll just use that. Yeah, if I constantly have to boast about how awesome and big my brain is, and how, like, I'm, like, a 200 IQ individual, like, that's kind of sus, don't you think?
Yeah.
I like the captions. Inaudible conversations. Yes, thank you. Can't lip read with all these masks now either. True.
It's all part of the plan.
It's for deaf people? Yes, I know, but they don't need to put, like, inaudible conversations. They could just put, like, currently in session. Or, sorry, currently in recess. It just seems kind of weird to, like... They don't know whether it's inaudible, though? Oh, okay. Well... If it's in recess, then, like, nothing's going on. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's just inaudible conversation is fine. I don't know. I'm just reading too much into it. If you're deaf, perhaps it's just making it clear that there's not meant to be any audio. Oh. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right, Ray. I take that back. You're right. Squeaky cat.
Squeaky. Squeaky. You just gonna sleep up there, you big lump?
Yeah, why not?
He's so huge, he breaks everything.
I used to laugh at it too. No, I just like think it's just like in my head when I initially saw this, I thought it was like not the proper way of like labeling it, is what I'm saying. At least we know that the cat isn't heavier than the laptop because that's a lot of channels. No? Is there a full studio in the back? Yeah, there is. You see, you can see the mixer, yeah? Send that link over in direct message or throw it up on the Discord. Actually, send it to me in a direct message. Yeah, everyone has them. Yeah, you know why? Because people went around and started sending links to try to DDoS people. That's why they're all off, and that's why everyone has them now. Because somebody or a few somebodies ruined it for everybody. No, it's not even that. It was literally a fake Donald Trump link that linked to that basically said revealed your IP address so that they can DDoS you. That's all.
Many people, Professor, think you are the most intelligent human.
Oh yeah, this is great. Nothing is going on right now, so nothing is going on right now. So I'm going to take a second here. Stephen Hawking.
Once again, the Senate impeachment trial the conclusion of it has been delayed. On the floor around the defense lawyers and the House impeachment managers to Mike Lee's objection. Burgess Everett of Politico reporting once again, Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, has a point of order after David.
Yeah, so we'll settle that afterwards. Stephen Hawking.
Many people, Professor, think you are the most intelligent human being in the world. Do you agree? And if it's not you, then who is it? Present company accepted, obviously.
I would never claim this. People who boast about their IQ are losers.
True. True. No cats in Congress to jump on their desks. No, the cats are here. Okay? The cats are over here. But yes, to answer your question, you see that floof ball? That giant floof ball over there is actually sleeping on top of a very, very nice Alan and is it Heath? I don't know. I don't remember. Yes.
Yes.
Mixer. And yeah, all kind of cool stuff happens. All kind of cool stuff happens there.
Squeaky vision.
Yeah, because while was going on, true. It was a wonder to me how some of these streamers would happily click a link from a random person when it could do more than just reveal. Yeah, but like the thing is, like generally speaking, like most people aren't like, you know, there to harm people, and it's like just it always takes this one, and then like now it's over. Fun is over, folks. You can't just like share links with your favorite streamers, because, well, someone ruined it for everybody.
Yep. Sure did.
Can you imagine the Oval Office cat curling around the nuclear button or playing with the nuclear football? Yeah, I mean, I guess they could sit on top of the briefcase, but no, they can't actually press the button. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the kitty had that option? Can you imagine the day when somebody said, "Oh, an email about Mango? Why would anyone lie about that?" Click, click, click. Yeah, no. The email stuff. That's an easy one. I never touch any like spam email or anything like that. I believe such people existed in the 90s. I'm that person. I just had a little bit more common sense, I think. The bright shiny button. Do your cats
Shiny.
do your cats ever decide to like boop the buttons and stuff on the switch
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Madam, Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President,
The senator from Utah.
I withdraw my appeal.
The appeal withdrawn. The chair would advise everybody. The evidentiary record is closed. S-Res 47 described the scope of those things not admitted to evidence
Hey, Cheeto.
as those referenced in trial. New evidence is not permitted in closing argument.
You would think all the
References to
flashing
such
lights on the
new
beaters would
evidence
scare them.
will
No,
be
it probably
stricken.
encouraged them to keep like booping the buttons and the faders. The service recently set up a real nice link. Yeah, I mean, yeah. The problem is like that link was to a legitimate Twitter. Sorry, that link was to a legitimate Twitter tweet
The House
at the
managers
time.
have the
It was
floor.
it was
I
a,
wish
it was
to
a real
resume.
tweet that happened. So although that's good and a good balance to try to have like more audience interaction and like
managers.
a way to post links, but that original DDoS attack that got me actually was a Saturday stream just like this one, where when I clicked the link I actually saw in the background because I didn't want to just show it. When I clicked on it, it was a legitimate tweet. It was
Esteemed
just
senators, good
hidden.
afternoon. We are grateful for your kind attention this week as we engaged in a process formulated and put to paper by the founders in my home city of Philadelphia, which is getting its fair share of attention this week, in 1787, 234 years ago. My colleague, Mr. Cicilline, addressed the importance of the President's dereliction of duty. I will focus on three specific aspects of this case, which the defense have raised questions about. First, the defense suggests that this was just one speech, and one speech
Yeah, let's just not try to have that in chat. At least,
and the
you know,
defense suggested
somewhat
because the
somewhat
attack was pre-planned by
PG-13.
some insurrectionists,
Somewhat PG-13.
Donald Trump is somehow not culpable. Both of these things are
Oh my
plainly
goodness.
not true.
I remember those
Nor
days.
are they what we
But that was
allege.
like during school.
So let's be clear.
Like
We are
everything
not
would lead to that.
suggesting Donald Trump's January 6th speech
Anything
by
that
itself
would lead to that
incited the attack.
would
We have shown that his course of conduct leading
would
up
show
to
up
and
on I
including
don't even
that
know why
speech
like
incited the attack.
school computers
Defense is
allowed that.
correct
I guess they
that
didn't
the
know.
insurrection was pre-planned. That supports our point.
Yeah, Rickrolling
We
is a nice
argued,
version. Yeah, yeah.
and the evidence
That's
overwhelmingly confirms
that's
that
semi
Donald
funny.
Trump's conduct over
And I
many
usually
months
filter those in my
incited his supporters to believe one, his big lie,
And I usually check-
that the
oof, and I
only
usually
way he
check
could
links
lose
before.
was if the election was rigged. Two, that to ensure the election would not be
I just joined a
stolen, to
suspected
prevent
DDoS
the
was from
fraud,
Twitter.com,
they
not
had to stop the
Twitter.grabify.
steal.
Oh, I don't know.
And three,
I don't know, but
they had
the
to fight to
website was
stop the
legit.
steal,
I think
or they
maybe,
would not
maybe
have a
I'm
country
missing
anymore.
something. I didn't
This conduct
investigate
took
as I should have.
time, and it culminated in Donald Trump sending a save the date on December the 19th.
Maybe I can work on that and
18
get a
days before the attack,
yeah, VPNs are good
telling
too.
his base exactly when,
Make a way so
where,
that like I can
and who to
whitelist
fight.
certain things.
And while he was doing this, he
I think you can
spent
still put
$50
hosted content in the tweet. Just
from
having a
his
quick
legal
think about how you could get
defense
the IP of
fund
Union
to
tweet.
simultaneously
Yeah, maybe it's just
broadcast his
like
message
it looks
to
legit,
stop
but then
the
it has like the
steal
dot
over all
grabify or
major
something that I
networks.
missed.
Donald Trump invited them, he incited them, then he directed them. Here are a few clips that will help bring that story to light.
Can you give a direct answer? You will accept the election?
I have to see. Look, I have to see. No, I'm not going to just say yes. And this election will be the most rigged election in history. This is going to be the greatest election disaster in history. And the only way they can take this election away from us is if this is a rigged election. We're going to win this election. That's right. It's a rigged election. It's the only way we're going to lose. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transfer of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation.
It's the only way that's the only way we're gonna lose, is if there's mischief, and it'll have to be on a
Yeah,
big scale.
I mean,
So
like, the
be
idea
careful.
that this was just a random thing that happened is like,
We're not gonna let
is just
this
not,
election be taken away from us. That's the only way they're gonna win it. This is a fraud
it's just not
on the American public.
true.
This is an embarrassment to our country.
This has been going on for months and months and months and months and months. Not just one statement, not just a few things, offhanded comments. No, this was a campaign, a media campaign. And I talked about this before, months ago, months and months ago, that this guy is priming the pump. This guy is priming the pump in the event that he loses, and
all over the country.
you know, you can't be surprised, Pikachu face, that the culmination was what happened.
Signs. Stop the steal. If we don't root out the fraud, the tremendous and horrible fraud that's taken place.
I watched some online class compilations and all student divas blast prawn into the teachers. Oh my god.
We cannot allow a completely fraudulent election to stand. We're gonna fight
Yeah,
like
before the
hell, I'll
like
tell you
general
that.
elections, these
If you
statement
don't
compromise
fight to
charges.
save
Yeah, in
your
my
country
opinion.
with
Yeah.
everything
Like the
you have,
idea that like
you're not going to have a country left. We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down. We will never, ever surrender. All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will
is he just rickrolling? Never gonna give you up. Oh my god. Once you set up the fact that you're right and anyone saying anything is just trying to cheat you, you're set, you can say and do whatever you want. Wasn't me, and your base just keeps plugging the Kool-Aid. Yeah, essentially. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. To do a successful media campaign, it's not just something that happened, you know,
Our point is
a
this,
couple of days
this
before
was
the
not
election
one
or
speech.
weeks before the election. This was
purposeful
months
effort by
and
Donald
months
Trump
and
over
months
many months
of
that
yes,
resulted
many
in the
months, as she just stated,
well-organized mob's attack on January
constantly
the 6th. That brings me
pushing
to
the
my
same
second point.
exact
Violence.
narrative. It's
Defense
going to
counsel
be
argues
rigged.
that there is
It's
no
going
way
to
that
be.
Donald Trump could
Okay,
have known
so
what would
expect
happen.
that when I lose, that it's
Yet
rigged.
we are not suggesting, nor is it necessary for us to prove that Donald Trump knew every detail of what would unfold on January the 6th, or even how horrible and
The
deadly
only way
the
I
attack would
lose
become.
is if they rig it.
But
In
he
other
did
words, if
know.
I just happen
As
to
he looked
lose,
out
they
on that
rigged
sea
it.
of
It's not real.
thousands in front of him,
It's
some
a
wearing
complete
body armor and
farce of an
helmets,
election, and
others carrying
people bought it.
weapons, that the result
Hook,
would be
line, and
violence.
sinker. It's that
The
idea.
evidence is overwhelming. The evidence
Not
overwhelmingly
idea, but
demonstrates
strategy.
this.
That if you say something repeatedly, and you make it a point to constantly talk about it in the same exact tone,
Donald Trump
using the exact
knew
same rhetoric
the people
over
he
and
was
over and
inciting
over and over and
leading
over
up
and
to
over and
January the
over and
6th.
over,
He saw the
it wills it
violence they
into
were capable
existence.
of. He had a pattern and practice of
I mean, to
praising
the
and
point where
encouraging
people really
supporters of
thought-
violence, never condemning it. It
People
is not
really
a
thought
coincidence that those same people,
that the election
Proud
was
Boys, the
was a
organizer
complete
of the
farce.
Trump caravan, the supporters and speakers at the second Million MAGA March, all showed up
There
on
was
January the 6th.
multiple
Donald
cases,
Trump's behavior was different.
hearings,
This was not just
recounts,
a comment by an official or a
everything
politician
to ensure
fighting for a cause.
in a
was
rational
months
person's
of
mind,
cultivating a
everything
base
to
of
ensure that
people
everything
who
went
were
as
violent,
best as it
praising
possibly
that
could have.
violence, and then leading them, leading that violence, that rage,
yet,
straight to a joint session of Congress
Because of
where
Donald
he
Trump's
knew his
constant
vice
campaign
president was presiding.
of making
And
sure
Donald
that,
Trump had warnings about the crowd in
every
front of
time
him
he
on
got a
January
chance,
6th.
time he had a chance,
posts
months leading up to
online
the election, he
attack
kept saying,
plans.
it's rigged, it's
Law
rigged, it's
enforcement
rigged,
warned
it's
that
rigged,
these
there's
posts
no
were
way I can
real
lose,
threats,
there's no
and
way I can
even made
lose,
arrests
they're
in the
planning
days
to
leading
steal
up
the
to
election.
attack. There were credible reports that
I mean-
many would be armed and ready to attack the Capitol. Despite these credible warnings of serious dangerous threats to our Capitol, when the crowd was standing
yeah,
in
like
front
the
of
main,
the president, ready to
um,
take orders and attack, he said,
I guess,
we're going to the
basis
Capitol and we fight
for
like hell, and if you don't fight
calling
like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Trump
Here's a short clip.
proto-fash or fash adjacent or fash leaning or fascist
What do you want to
is
call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to
is
White
supremacists and right
the might makes
Stand
right
back and stand
mentality.
by.
From the beginning of 2015, he expressed his adulation for strength and physical violence and dominance through violence. Might makes right. That's what makes him, at the core,
They had hundreds of cars.
baseline
Trump and the American flag. That's it. You see
of
Trump
why
and American flag.
he is fascist, fascistic, proto-fash, whatever you want to call him.
would not do everything in their power to keep Trump in office, then we would destroy the GOP.
And there's our good friend, Nick Fuentes.
And as we gather here in Washington, D.C. for a second Million MAGA march, we're done making promises. It has to happen now. We are going to destroy the GOP.
Jesus.
Destroy the GOP! Destroy the GOP! Destroy the GOP! Because you'll
It's like watching a, it's like watching a cult.
Country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
Yeah, he's not a, yeah, it's a joke, haha.
Senators, the violence on January
Oh really?
the 6th
People
was
think Fuentes is a
demonstrably
comedian?
foreseeable.
No
Trump
way.
even said so himself at
Is that how he bills
6:01
himself?
PM the day of
No.
the attack. The last thing he said before he went to sleep, quote,
Wow.
"These are the
Yeah,
things
just
that
memes,
happen."
guys. Just memes.
That happened, end quote. He
Just
foresaw
memes.
this, and he admitted as much. That brings me to my final point. The insurrectionists. Defense counsel has suggested these people
Yeah, like
came here
usually
on their
just
own.
making edgy jokes is the
Brief states that the insurrectionists,
is the
quote,
defense,
did
but-
so for their own accord and for their own reasons.
January
and are
6th was
being
explosions of
criminally
resentment which have been building and
It
stoked
is
for
true that some
decades. To a degree,
insurrectionists are
yes,
being
but
prosecuted, but
this
it
was
is not
not
true that they did so of their own
um,
accord and for
by
their
itself
own reasons. The evidence makes clear
necessarily
the exact
how we got
opposite,
here, right?
that
Because
they did
like
this for Donald Trump,
yes, you know,
at
you
his
could take a look at all what
invitation,
happened
at his direction,
you know,
at
throughout
his
these
command.
years. Everything
They
that
said this before
has
the
bubbled
attack,
up to the surface, but
during the attack.
specifically the
They said
event
it
that led
after
to
the attack.
January 6th,
Leading
there are
up to
some
January the
very
6th,
specific
and post after post, the
timelines
president's supporters
in which we
confirmed
could
this was
which
for
is
Donald Trump.
documented as to
It
how
was at his
January
direction.
6th
One supporter
happened.
wrote, and I
You could
quote,
say
"If
that
Congress
maybe
illegally
Donald
certifies
Trump took
Biden,
advantage of that
Trump
and
would
kind
have
of like,
absolutely
you know,
no choice
marshaled
but
that
to demand us to storm the Capitol and kill
you know,
/ beat them up for it."
that energy. But the fact of the
They
matter
even
is,
say
if
publicly,
it wasn't for
openly, and
Trump,
proudly
it wouldn't have happened.
that President Trump would help them commandeer the National Guard. So
Like,
all
if
they
it wasn't
have
for
to
Trump,
do
it wouldn't
is
have happened.
Overwhelm 2,000 Capitol Police officers.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
During
I don't
his
know what that
speech on
means.
January the 6th, Trump supporters chanted his words back to him. They even live tweeted his commands, as Ms. DeGette showed you. During the attack, the insurrectionists at the Capitol chanted Donald Trump's words from his tweets, rallies, and from the speech of the 6th. They held signs that said and chanted, "Fight for Trump, stop the steal." They read his tweets over bullhorns, amplifying his demands.
No, I get it's from the
rioter,
OJ trial.
while
I'm just
live
trying
streaming
to.
the insurrection from the Capitol,
I'm just trying to
said,
put together how that
quote,
makes
"He'll be
any
happy.
sense.
We're fighting
here.
for Trump." What's more, the insurrectionists were not hiding. They believed they were following the orders from our commander-in-chief. They felt secure enough in the legitimacy of their
Yeah, they were
actions to
legitimized
take
by
selfies,
Trump. Yeah,
post
they were
photos
legitimized by
and
Trump.
videos
That's
on
true,
social
Redmond.
media.
They
After
coalesced,
the
they
attack,
were
rioter
legitimized,
after
were
rioter confirmed
validated,
this
whatever you
too.
want to say,
Jenna
under
Ryan,
Trump.
who was
Yeah,
later
emerged.
accused for her role in the insurrection, said, quote, "I thought I was following my president. I thought we were following what we were called to do." And President Trump requested that we be in D.C. on the 6th.
I mean, I guess if you want to make the analogy to the OJ trial, I mean, the glove doesn't always the glove doesn't just fit. It's got his name on it.
Listen to some of this evidence.
If you want to make the analogy to the OJ trial, the glove not only fits, but it's got his name on it.
For a second that they're going to get away with it today, they got another thing coming.
Yikes.
Because today is just a day. And today is just the beginning. They haven't seen a resistance until they have seen a patriot fight for their country.
Jesus.
If you die today. Parties will withhold. This is crooked. The parties will withhold.
It is in the record.
The evidentiary record is closed. S. 47 described the scope of those things admitted into evidence as those referenced in trial. New evidence is not permitted in closing argument.
She thinks Congress won't certify the election. Yeah, Congress's job to quote-unquote certify the election is more performative than anything. So just to be clear. Unless, like, the only job that Vice President Pence had at that point was to throw out any fraudulent electoral ballots if they existed. That's about as much as he could do. Congress isn't there to change the elections. I don't believe Congress has the power to. It's just tradition / performative. It's not going to change the fact that X person won the election, okay? It's just a thing that happens every 4 years. Probably vestigial from the old days or something, I don't know.
The Proud Boys who Donald Trump told to stand back and stand by in September of 2020. Keith Lee, organizer of the Trump caravan that tried to drive the Biden campaign bus off the road. Katrina Pearson, the speaker at the 2nd Million MAGA March. They were all there.
Squeaky.
Squeaker peepers. Squeaky, why are you ignoring me?
The electors could be changed by the state legislature. Yeah, the electors. But there is also an entire other process for that. But once the Electoral College has certified its results and has passed it on to the House and Senate, they're just there to certify it. All those faces yeah, they can, but that's before it gets to the House and Senate.
Oh, correction. The record did
so yeah, they could do that
appropriately the last video. So we will keep that in the record, and I will keep it in my closing remarks.
But once it gets to the House and Senate, it's all performative. Yeah. And even within state legislatures, that's also a whole entire process that you just don't do with with a flick of your wrist, depending on the state, of course. How many times did Joe Biden have to ask to see objections signed by both a member of House? I mean, they just have a job to do. For most people, they don't consider it but if yeah, exactly. Yep, that's right, Redmond. All it is just a performance, to just, do the whole cool thing, like, oh yeah, we certified the results, and bang the gavel, and that's it, you know? It's over. Folks, while this is going on, I'm gonna take a quick second to give ourselves a little shout out. If you guys enjoy the content, please make sure you hit that follow button and head on over to our YouTube channel. Head on over to our YouTube channel and click that subscribe button. It really does help us out. And make sure that if you do enjoy the content and you do like what you see, tell anybody and everybody. There's quite a dozen of you here. Just tell everybody and anybody about us and how we're striving to be one of the chillest news and politics channel out there. And yeah, also tell your friends. Also tell your friends that Caturday is the place to be. Wouldn't it be here if you're streaming to YouTube? True. But hey, we're here.
Are we? Are we really here?
I don't know. I think it's just Squeaky. Squeaky is the only, like... In terms of, like, reality, I think Squeaky is the only one that's, like, real.
The U.S. Senate paused once again in the Senate impeachment trial against former President Donald Trump.
Squeaky
the defense
is the
lawyers
realest
for
one
the
of all.
president, for the former president, objected to and are claiming that the House
It did at
impeachment
least flash up to
managers
say
are
that you were
including
streaming.
new
Hey, that's all.
evidence in their
That's all we can
closing
ask for.
arguments. Burgess Everett from
I was that
Politico
one viewer.
knows one of
Thank
them
you.
shouted out, "This is crooked,"
The real
during the
MVP.
closing arguments. Let's watch.
Do you usually not have the politics tag? Yeah, I usually do. But also I usually put on Saturdays the just chatting, simply because like I don't know if we end up going
Senators will take their seats.
if we end
Senate
up going
will
the
be
politics
in
route.
order.
Sometimes we do. It just so happens that today's the last day of the impeachment, so we're gonna play that in the background while we hang out with you guys. What happened to Bailey? Is he being shy today?
Thank you, Mr. President. I
Bailey
have to
is
say that of all the
sleeping
trials
in
I
the
have ever
living
been a
room
part of,
and
this
does
is
not feel
certainly
like-
one of them. As the slides show,
Boo.
the people he cultivated, whose violence he
Discord.
praised, were all there on January the 6th.
Why are you
The
like-
Proud Boys, who Donald Trump told to stand back and stand by in September of 2020. Keith Lee,
And I'm
the
just here,
organizer
not
of the
playing
Trump
my
caravan
Nintendo
that
Switch.
tried to drive
Not
the
playing your
Biden campaign
Nintendo
bus
Switch,
off
gotcha.
the road. Katrina Pearson, the speaker at the second Million MAGA March, they were all there. Here is one final clip, also submitted in the record.
That's what we fucking need to have 30,000 guns over here. That's true. That's what we need.
Senators, some of the insurrectionists are facing criminal charges. Donald Trump was acting as our commander-in-chief. He was our president. He used his office and the authority it commands to incite an attack. And when Congress and the Constitution were under attack, he abandoned his duties, violated his oath, failing to preserve, protect, and defend. That is why we are here, because the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, incited and directed thousands of people to attack the legislative branch. He knew what his supporters were capable of. He inflamed them, sent them down Pennsylvania Avenue, not on any old day, but on the day we were certifying the election results, as they were banging on our doors, he failed to defend us because this is what he wanted. He wanted to remain in power. For
Yeah,
that
he
crime
wanted to
against the
intimidate
Republic, he
people.
must be
He
held
wanted
accountable.
to
Senators, the
do
insurrectionists
whatever
were
it
still
is that
listening.
was
Before
possible
I
as a
end, I
last-ditch
must
effort
admit, until we were preparing for this
to
trial, I
essentially
didn't know the
stay in
extent
power.
of
I
many
mean,
of these facts. I witnessed the horror, but I didn't know. I didn't know how deliberate the president's planning was, how he had invested in it, how many times he incited his supporters with these lies, how
I don't know,
carefully
Mrs.
and
Dean.
consistently he incited them to
There's
violence
months of
on January
quite
6th.
openly video
While many of us may have
of him
tuned out
talking
his
about it.
rallies,
It's not like it was.
I also did not know the extent that his followers were listening, were hanging on his every word. And honestly, I did not know how close the mob actually came to their violent ends, that they were just steps away from all of us, that the death toll could have been much higher, but for the bravery of men and women who protected us. But now we know. We know the bravery of people like Officer Goodman and all the men and women of the Capitol Police, of the custodians who with pride and a sense of duty in their work cleaned up shattered glass, splintered wood, and blood-stained floors. We know the sacrifice of life and limb. We know what Donald Trump did. We know what he failed to do. Though it is difficult to bear witness and face the reality of what happened in these halls, what happens if we don't confront these facts? What happens if there is no accountability?
Exactly.
For those who say we need to get past this, we need to come together, we need to unify. If we don't set this right and call it what it was, the highest of constitutional crimes by the President of the United States, the past will not be past. The past will become our future for my grandchildren and for their children. Senators, we are in a dialogue with history, a conversation with our past, with a hope for our future.
Right, the idea that, you know, this goes unpunished
no one person here among us
is
remembered.
going to set a very
And yet,
dangerous
what we do here,
precedent.
what
In other
is
words,
being asked of each of us
you know,
here
if I
in
don't
this
like the
moment
election results,
will
I'll
be
just
remembered.
screw it.
History has
It's
found
fine
us.
if I'm an elected official on my way out. You
that
know,
you
there's
not
no
look
accountability.
the other way.
I'd now like to bring up Mr. Neguse.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, there's an old quote from Henry Clay, son of Kentucky, that courtesies of a small and trivial character are the ones that strike deepest in the grateful and appreciating heart. I want to say on behalf of all the House managers, we are very grateful for the courtesies that you've extended to us and to President's counsel during the course of this trial. You've heard my colleague, Manager Dean, go through the overwhelming evidence that makes clear that President Trump must be convicted and disqualified for his high crime. I'm not going to repeat that evidence. It speaks for itself. Earlier in this trial, you might recall a few days ago that I mentioned my expectation that President Trump's lawyers might do everything they could to avoid discussing the facts of this case. And I can understand why. I mean, the evidence that all of us presented, that Manager Dean just summarized, is pretty devastating. And so rather than address it, the President has offered up distractions, excuses, anything but actually trying to defend against the facts.
True.
They said things like, President Trump is now a private citizen, so the criminal justice system can deal with him. Or that we haven't set a clear standard for incitement. They talked a lot about due process, and that all politicians say words like fight. I'd like to take a minute to explain why each of those distractions are precisely that, distractions, and why they do not prevent in any way the Senate from convicting President Trump. Number one, every president is one day a private citizen again. So, the argument that because President Trump has left office, he shouldn't be impeached for conduct committed while he was in office doesn't make sense. Why would the Constitution include the impeachment power at all if the criminal justice system serves as a suitable alternative once a president leaves office?
Right, and we all see just how many presidents have ever
is a
faced
remedy
any type
separate and apart from the criminal justice system.
any
And
type
for good
of
reason.
repercussions. We've all seen how that
presidency,
happens.
It comes with special powers, extraordinary powers, not bestowed on ordinary citizens. And if those powers are abused, they can cause great damage to our country, and they have to be dealt with in a separate forum. This forum. And it would be unwise to suggest that going forward, the only appropriate response to constitutional offenses committed by a president are criminal charges when the president returns to private life. That's not the kind of political system any of us want. And it's not the kind of constitutional system the framers intended.
Yeah, because then at that point, anybody
Second,
who's on their way out
It
can
is
just
true.
do whatever they want because,
we haven't cited
who cares? They're on their way out. Like the
establishing elements
level
of
of
incitement because again,
danger,
this
like
isn't
the
a
level of
criminal
dangerous
trial.
precedent that this sets
It's not a
is like,
criminal case.
and to be honest, understated
President
because
Trump
it's not even
with a
like, so
constitutional
just taking aside the
offense.
fact that all the stuff that he did
And you are
leading up to
tasked
January
with
6th, and
determining
clearly he did
whether
have a
or
role
not
in
he
inciting this.
committed that high crime
That's
as
not even like
understood
the
by our
potential
framers.
repercussions
So
to this.
relevant question,
It means
which
that a president
Trump's
that
lawyers
a
would have you
president can do
ignore,
anything
would our framers
in their last
have
days of
considered
office
a
and not face
president
anything. It's
inciting
fine.
a
It's cool.
violent mob
Anything.
to attack our government while seeking to stop the certification of our elections? Would they have considered that an impeachable offense? Who among us really thinks the answer to that question is no? Third, due process. So, just to be absolutely clear, the House, with the sole power of impeachment, determines what the process looks like in the House, and the Senate does
Yeah,
the
it's
same.
a political
the
thing, and you
trial.
want to talk about due process?
During this
Imagine
trial, the
like
president
jurors
has
meeting with the
counsel.
defense team of the quote
They've
unquote
argued
accused.
very vigorously on his behalf.
I mean,
We had a full presentation of evidence, adversarial presentations, motions. The president was invited to testify. He declined. The president was invited to provide exculpatory evidence. He declined. You can't claim there's no due process when you won't participate in the process. And we know this case isn't one that requires a complicated legal analysis. You lived it.
thank you. That's what I
The
was
managers
saying.
and we lived it. Our country lived it. The president, in public view, right out in the open, incited a violent mob. A mob that temporarily, at least, stopped us from certifying an election. If there were ever an exigent circumstance, this is it. Number 4. We all know that President Trump's defense, as we predicted, spent a lot of time, a whole lot of time, comparing his conduct to other politicians, using words like fight. And of course, you saw the hours of video. As I said on Thursday, we trust you to know the difference. Because what you will not find in those video montages that they showed you is any of those speeches, those remarks, culminating in a violent insurrection on our nation's capital. That's the difference. The president spent months inflaming his supporters to believe that the election had been stolen from him, from them, which was not true. He summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and when the violence erupted, he did nothing to stop it. Instead, inciting it further. Senators, all of these arguments offered by the president have one fundamental thing in common. One. They have nothing to do with whether or not, factually, whether or not the president incited this attack. They've given you a lot of distractions so they don't have to defend what happened here on that terrible day. And they do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of whataboutism and non sequiturs.
That you'll ignore the president's conduct instead of confronting.
That had absolutely nothing to do if you listen to some of the wacky stuff that the defense team was talking about.
Some of you know this already. I'm the youngest member of our manager team by quite a few years. So perhaps I'm a bit naive, but I just don't believe that. I really don't. I don't believe their effort is going to work. And here is why. Because I know what this body is capable of.
Oh, buddy.
I may not have witnessed it, but I've read about it in the history books. I've seen the C-SPAN footage. Archives, sometimes I've watched them for hours. And yes, I've actually done that. And the history of our country in those books and in those tapes, the history of this country has been defined right here on this floor. The 13th Amendment, the amendment abolishing slavery, was passed in this very room. In this room, not figuratively, literally, where you all sit and where I stand. In 1964, this body, with the help of senators like John Sherman Cooper and so many others, this body secured passage of the Civil Rights Act. We made the decision to enter World War II from this chamber. We've
fashion mobs
had our struggles, but we've always risen to the occasion when it mattered the most. Not by ignoring injustice or cowering to bullies and threats, but by doing the right thing, by trying to do the right thing. And that's why so many nations around the world aspire to be like America. They stand up to dictators and autocrats and tyrants because America is a guiding light for them. A North Star.
Yeah, from this point on, we can kind of like understand that this is just going to be rhetoric.
A North Star in these moments. Because the people who sat in your chairs, when confronted with choices that define us, rose to the occasion. I want to offer
more rhetoric
of a decision made in this room by this body that
I see what he's trying to do to try to like very, as he said, very naively to appeal to these Republicans. It's just not going to work.
And many senators graciously approached me after my presentation and asked me where my parents were from. And I told those who asked that my folks were from East Africa. In 1986, this body considered a bill to override President Reagan's veto of legislation imposing sanctions on South Africa during apartheid. 2 senators who sit in this room, one Democrat and one Republican, voted to override that veto. That vote was not about gaining political favor. And in fact, it was made despite potentially losing political favor. And I have to imagine that that vote was cast like the decisions before it.
I think it's an attempt to appeal to
party politics. and that
you know,
require us
what
to
would
put country above our
amount to
party
the
because
17
the
Republicans that they need.
consequences
But
of
still,
not
like, it's,
doing so are
in my
just too
opinion, a
great.
naive attempt. So it seems like a lot of politicians
Senators, this
treat their
is one
podium
of
like
those moments.
time like a speaking contest, almost like a sport. Well,
Many folks
this is
who are watching today's
depending,
proceedings may
but
not know this,
usually
but House
it's because
members like me,
they
the manager
use that
Raskin,
time for
fellow
sound
managers, we're
bites.
not allowed on the
Um,
Senate floor
in this
without
case, it's
express
being
permission.
used to try to appeal
No
to
one
this
is. Certainly
quote
the
unquote
senators
17
are aware
Republicans.
of that.
But
This
yeah,
floor
they do
is
use that as a way of getting sound bites.
It's one of the
and,
reasons
you know,
why I, like so many of you, was so offended to see it desecrated by that mob. To see those insurrectionists diminishing and devaluing and disrespecting these hallowed halls that my whole life I have held in such awe. Because of those rules that I just mentioned, this will be the only time I have the privilege to stand before you like this. When the trial's over, I'll go back to being not an impeachment manager, but back to being just a House member. The trial will end, and we'll resume our lives and our work. But for some, there will be no end to the pain of what happened on January 6th. The officers who struggled to recover from the injuries they sustained to protect us. They struggle to recover today. The families who continue to mourn those who
their
they
montage
lost
sequence won't care about that. No, in this case, they're not speaking for
terrible,
sound bites.
tragic day. I was
In this case, they're
struck
speaking to them.
yesterday by defense counsel's continued references to hate. One of my favorite quotes of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., it's one that has sustained me during times of adversity, I suspect it sustained some of you, is that I've decided to stick with love, that hate is too great a burden to bear. This trial is not born from hatred. Far from it. It's born from love of country, our country, our desire to maintain it, our desire to see America at its best. And in those moments that I spoke of, Civil Rights Act, so much more, we remember those moments because they helped define and enshrine America at its best. I firmly believe that our certification of the Electoral College votes in the early hours of January 7th, our refusal to let our republic be threatened and taken down by a violent mob, will go down in history as one of those moments too. And I believe that this body can rise to the occasion once again today.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not talking to us.
By convicting President Trump, defending our republic. And the stakes could not be higher. Because the cold, hard truth is that what happened on January 6th can happen again. I fear, like many of you do, that the violence we saw on that terrible day may be just the beginning. We've shown you the ongoing risks, the extremist groups who grow more emboldened every day. Senators, this cannot be the beginning. It can't be the new normal. It has to be the end. And that decision is in your hands.
Well, I don't know about that, biotech.
Mr. President,
Mr. Raskin?
Senators, my daughter Hannah said something to me last night that stopped me cold and brought me up short. Our kids have been very moved by all the victims of the violence, the officers and their families. But Hannah told me last night she felt really sorry for the kid of a man who said goodbye to his children before he left home to come and join Trump's actions. Their father had told them that their dad might not be coming home again and they might never see him again. In other words, he was expecting violence. He might die, as insurrectionists did.
Willing to employ, that doesn't mean that they don't know what it is.
Hannah said, how can the president put children and people's families in that situation and then just run away from the whole thing? That shook me. And I was filled with self-reproach because when I first saw the line about, your father going to Washington and you might not see him again, I just thought about it, well, like a prosecutor, like a manager. I thought, what damning evidence that is, that people are expecting lethal violence at a protest called by the President of the United States and saying their final goodbyes to their kids. But Hannah, my dear Hannah, thought of it like a human being. She thought of it, if you'll forgive me, like a patriot.
Chess boxing? What?
Someone who just lost her brother and doesn't want to see any other kids in America go through that kind of agony and grief. Senators, when I say all three of my kids are better than me, you know that I am not engaged in idle flattery. Maybe some of you feel the same way about your kids. They're literally better people than me. They've got a lot of their mom, Sarah Bloom Raskin, in them, and they're better than me. And Hannah saw through the legality of the situation. She saw through the politics of the situation, all the way to the humanity of the situation, the morality of the situation. That was one of the most patriotic things I ever heard anybody say. The children of the insurrectionists, even the violent and dangerous ones, they're our children too. They are
Thank you for the
Americans,
follow,
and we
Mighty
must
Mouse.
take care of them and their future. We must recognize and exercise these crimes against our nation, and then we must take care of our people and our children, their hearts and their minds. As Tommy Raskin used to say, it's hard to be human. Many of the Capitol and Metropolitan Police officers and guardsmen and women who were beaten up by the mob also have kids. You remember Officer Fanone, who had a heart attack after being tased and roughed up for hours by the mob, and then begged for his life, telling the insurrectionists that he had 4 daughters. And that just about broke my heart all over again. We talked about this for a long time last night. My kids felt terrible that other kids' fathers and mothers were pulled into this nightmare by a president of the United States. Senators, we proved he betrayed his country. We proved he betrayed his Constitution. We proved
And
he
the
betrayed
sad thing
his
about
oath
this
of
entire
office.
thing is that they don't
The
care.
startling thing to recognize now is that he is even betraying the mob. He told them he would march with them, and he didn't. They believed the president was right there with them somewhere in the crowd, fighting the fantasy conspiracy to steal the election and steal their country away from them. They thought they were one big team working together. He told them their great journey together was just beginning, and now there are hundreds of criminal prosecutions getting going all over the country. People getting set to say goodbye to members of their family. And the president who contacted them, solicited them, lured them, invited them, incited them, that president has suddenly gone quiet and dark. Nowhere to be found. He cannot be troubled to come here to tell us what happened and tell us why this was the patriotic and the constitutional thing to do. Senators, this trial in the final analysis is not about Donald Trump. The country and the world know who Donald Trump is. This trial is about who we are. Who we are. My friend Dar Williams says that sometimes the truth is like a second chance. We've got a chance here with the truth.
Yeah, he was never going to do nothing like
Still
that to
believe
you,
in the
dude.
separation
That's
of
not
powers.
who he is.
President Trump tried to sideline or run over every other branch of government, thwart the will of the people at the state level, usurp the people's choice for president. This case is about whether our country demands a peaceful, nonviolent transfer of power to guarantee the sovereignty of the people. Are we going to defend the people who defend us? Not just honor them with medals, as you rightfully did yesterday, but actually back them up against savage, barbaric, insurrectionary violence? Will we restore the honor of our capital and the people who work here? Will we be a
So much
democratic
better than
nation
watching
that the
Twitch
world
streams?
looks to
Nah.
for understanding democratic values and practices and constitutional government and the rights of women and men? Will the Senate condone the President of the United States inciting a violent attack
Yeah, sadly, again,
on
Rick,
our
it's
chambers,
sadly
our
the
offices,
most
our
likely
staff, and the
outcome
officers
is that
who
he gets
protect
acquitted.
us? When you see the footage of Officer Hodges stuck in the doorway,
I forgot to add the
literally
kappa
being
there.
tortured by the mob. If government did that to you, that would be torture. And when you see that footage, and he's shouting in agony for his dear life,
Oh no.
it's almost unwatchable.
Not only for DMCA
When the Vice
purposes,
President of
but
the United
like
States
also you're right, the
escapes
comments could get a
violent
little
mob that's entered this Capitol building,
yikesy.
seeking to hang him
C-SPAN is all
and
is
calling
the
out
way to go.
traitor, traitor, traitor. And when they shut down the counting of the Electoral College votes, is this the future you imagine for our kids? Is it totally appropriate, as we've been told? Or as Representative Cheney said, is it the greatest betrayal of the presidential oath of office in the history of our country? And if we can't handle this together as a people, all of us, forgetting the lines of party and ideology and geography and all of those things, if we can't handle this, how are we ever going to conquer the other crises of our day?
Geography.
Is this America? Is this what we want to bequeath to our children and our grandchildren? I was never a great Sunday school student. Actually, I was pretty truant most of the time.
Bro.
But one line always stuck with me from the book of Exodus as both beautiful and haunting, even as a kid, after I asked what the words meant. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil.
So I guess he's doing the
The officer who got called the N-word 15 times and spent
the
hours with his colleagues
religious
battling
bit, so that
insurrectionists
again it's
who
an
had
attempt to
metal
appeal
poles
to
and
Republicans.
baseball bats,
This is a naive
hockey
attempt,
sticks, bear spray,
but
and
I guess
Confederate
it's.
battle flags posed the right question.
I guess if it's a card they can play,
to
they
the
should.
Senate and to all of us. Is this America? Dear senators, that's going to be up to you now. And whatever committees and subcommittees you're on, whatever you came to Washington to do, to work on, from defense to agriculture to energy to aerospace to healthcare, this is almost certainly how you will be remembered by history. That might not be fair. It really might not be fair, but none of us can escape the demands of history and destiny right now. Our reputations and our legacy will be inextricably intertwined with what we do here and with how you exercise your oath to do impartial justice. Impartial justice. I know and I trust you will do impartial justice, driven by your meticulous attention to the overwhelming facts of the case and your love for our Constitution, which I know dwells in your heart. The times have found us, said Tom Paine, the namesake of my son. The times have found us. Is this America? What kind of America will we be? It's now literally in your hands. Godspeed to the Senate of the United States.
Well, I mean,
We reserve any remaining time.
yeah, but
The
who took advantage of
House
that,
is
you know?
reserved 28 minutes.
Proceed.
I'm talking, and it will not be so long. And before I start my prepared closing, I really want to clean up a few things from the mess that was the closing of the House managers. I do not want to ruin my closing because I think the ending's pretty good. What they didn't, they started off by misstating the law, and they started off by misstating the intent of our stipulation. What we did today was stipulate to an article that was published in a magazine. Apparently they've had for weeks, according to the documents they produced today, but for some reason this morning popped up with it. The stipulation was that they can put that in. We did not stipulate to its contents for truthfulness. And they tried to portray that in their closing as the stipulation. The stipulation was read into the record.
Oh, come
the
on.
Proponents of that conversation, the real ones, have denied its content, its veracity. With respect to, and I'm not going to talk much about the tortured analysis of our arson laws that started off, or the truly sideways analogies that were used with fires.
What does this have
What
to
I
do
do
with
want to
anything?
talk about, though, is the doctoring
Nothing.
of evidence. First of all, they sent us their evidence on Tuesday the 9th at 2:32 p.m. by email. I was in this room trying the case already when they sent their evidence. Due process. They used evidence that was flat wrong 2 or 3 nights ago with Senator Lee and had to withdraw it. They tried to use it again today. They tried to use evidence that they had never presented in the case in their closing argument.
Wait, which one?
That is a very desperate attempt by a prosecuting team, 9 of them, by a prosecuting team that knew that their case has collapsed.
Would you care to point out which one?
Their closing did not mention one piece of law. They didn't talk about the Constitution once. They didn't talk about the First Amendment and its application. They didn't talk about due process and how it applies to this proceeding.
They keep, okay,
for my client.
this dude keeps talking about due process as if this was a real trial. And furthermore, this constant harping about
I'll be right back.
All right, this constant harping about due process and whatnot,
Is that
and about how,
when
oh,
you
it wasn't
close a
done
case
properly or
out,
whatever,
you
whatever,
close
whatever,
on the
whatever.
facts that
You know that the
were
House
admitted in the
determines how
trial. It's a
to,
basic, fundamental principle of
the House
due
determines how this
process and
process
fairness.
goes. This isn't a criminal
was
trial.
violently breached today
Second of all,
on
when you
multiple
have no real
occasions.
defense, you attack the
And you have to
process.
ask yourself, why? Why did they resort to those tactics at this moment in time?
His problem is with the tactics.
Senators, good afternoon, Mr. President. What took place here at the U.S. Capitol on January 6 was a grave tragedy. Over the course of this trial, you have heard no one on either side of this debate argue that the infiltration of the Capitol was anything less than a heinous act on the home of American democracy. All of us, starting with my client, are deeply disturbed by the graphic videos of the Capitol attack that have been shown in recent days. The entire team condemned and have repeatedly condemned the violence and law-breaking that occurred on January 6th in the strongest possible terms. We've advocated that everybody be found, punished to the maximum extent of the law. Yet the question before us is not whether there was a violent insurrection of the Capitol. On that point, everyone agrees. Based on the explicit text of the House impeachment article, this trial is about whether Mr. Trump willfully engaged in incitement of violence and even insurrection against the United States.
True.
And that question they have posed in their article of impeachment has to be set up against the law of this country.
No.
No matter how much truly horrifying footage we see of the conduct of the rioters and how much emotion has been injected into this trial, that does not change the fact that Mr. Trump is innocent of the charges against him.
First of all,
Despite
if you
all
really
of the
want to
video
go
played,
with the whole like
at
actual
no point in
legality
their
and law,
presentation
he
did you
probably,
hear
if he was a
the
regular
House
citizen,
managers play
if he was a
single
regular citizen, he
example
probably would
of
have been
Mr.
convicted
Trump
on felony
urging
charges of
anyone
inciting a riot.
to engage
I mean,
in
we've
violence
seen, and
of
I,
any kind.
went over this
At
earlier
no
in the
point
stream. We've seen like
did you
Proud
hear
Boys and
anything that
others
could ever
get,
possibly be construed
charged
as
and
Mr.
convicted
Trump
over less.
encouraging or sanctioning an insurrection. Senators, you did not hear those tapes because they do not exist, because the act of incitement never happened. He engaged in no language of incitement whatsoever on January 6th or any other day following the election. No unbiased person honestly reviewing the transcript of Mr. Trump's speech on the ellipse could possibly believe that he was suggesting violence. He explicitly told the crowd that he expected the protest outside the Capitol to be peaceful and patriotic. They claim that's not enough. His entire premise was that the proceedings of the joint session should continue.
Yes, he is.
He spent nearly the entire speech talking about how he believes the senators and members of Congress should vote on the matter. It's the words. The Supreme Court ruled in Brandenburg that there is a very clear standard for incitement. In short, you have to look at the words themselves. The words have to either explicitly or implicitly call for lawlessness or violence. Whether the speech, you have to determine whether the speech was intended to provoke the lawlessness.
Oh my
and
God,
whether
really?
The violence was
like the amount of this is
itself.
Olympic
They fail on all
level.
three prongs.
Olympic level of mental gymnastics to thread this needle to make it work.
His supporters to go attack the Capitol has been repeated so often, uncritically, without any examination of the underlying facts that the Americans listening at home were probably surprised to learn it's not true. Furthermore, some of the people in this room followed Mr. Trump's statements and tweets in the weeks leading up to January 6th very closely. We know that he was not trying to foment an insurrection during the time because no one, from the Speaker of the House to the Mayor of Washington, D.C., behaved in a fashion consistent with the belief that violence was being advocated for. Mr. Trump did not spend the weeks prior to January 6th inciting violence. He spent those weeks pursuing his election challenge through the court system and other
That is a
legal
very
procedures,
generous
exactly as the Constitution and the Congress
account of
prescribe.
those events.
To believe, based on the evidence you have seen, that Mr. Trump actually wanted and indeed willfully incited an armed insurrection to overthrow the U.S. government would be absurd. The gathering on January 6th was supposed to be an entirely peaceful event. Thousands and thousands of people, including Mr. Trump, showed up that day with that intention. A small percentage, a small fraction of those people then engaged in truly horrible behavior, but as we now know, that those actors were pre-planned and premeditated and acted even before the speech was.
Like, their argument is basically like, well, he never actually said to do any of these things. No. The problem was from the beginning, and this is what the House impeachment managers were essentially like creating. That's why it was so important to create that timeline, because this just didn't happen. This was months and months of priming the pump for his supporters to be riled up. And ever since 2015, during his campaign rallies that never stopped, but ever since 2015, we know that he has been a very, very comfortable with the fact that his supporters were willing to commit and have committed violence. Not only that, from beginning, from the first time he ever ran for office, won his election, he kept continuing to push the narrative that our elections were fraudulent, even when he won. And in 2020, continued to push that narrative months after months after months after months, saying that we have to, quote, fight like hell. We have to, quote, save our country. We have to, quote, don't let them steal this from you. No, he didn't say plan and commit an insurrection at the Capitol. But if you look at all the social media posts leading up to the events, clearly, enough people got the message. Everybody saw. It wasn't private. We saw from different social media posts, from Parler, from Facebook, we saw the groups. We saw what they were talking about. They were selling Civil War t-shirts with a name, with a date, January 6th of 2021. This was premeditated. They were selling t-shirts. Trump told them to show up January 6th, quote, be wild.
Leaders, including the current president and vice president,
Hey, Lost Stu, how's it
made
going?
comments that provided moral comfort to mobs attacking police officers. During that time, many officers across the country were injured.
It is a travesty that the rules permitted the last 4 years. It just took a complete pilot
and shot at point
jump to test those boundaries and find them lacking. Yeah, I mean, they could have taken care of this during the first one. They had the ability to invoke the 25th Amendment at any point.
Kentucky and most points in between have been harassed by mobs. Last August, a menacing left-wing mob swarmed Senator Rand Paul and his wife as they left the White House, and they had to be rescued by police. For months, our federal courthouse in Portland was placed under siege by violent anarchists who attacked law enforcement officers daily and repeatedly and tried to set fire to the building. Speaker Pelosi did not call the violent siege of the federal building an insurrection. She called the federal agents protecting the courthouse stormtroopers. The White House complex was besieged by mobs that threw bricks.
How desperate do you have to be
at Secret Service agents
that you can't even reject the actions of what happened? Instead, you have to play whataboutism games.
To infiltrate the Treasury grounds. When my client's administration sent
he was talking
in the
about how
National Guard
the
to
impeachment
secure the
managers'
nation's
cases were so
capital,
desperate.
the city admits the
But
violence.
as
Democrat
always,
leaders
a lot of
demanded
these people are,
that the forces be
whenever they
withdrawn.
say things like
The
this, it's pure
Washington,
projection.
D.C.
It's
mayor said
their
the presence
defense
of the
who's
National Guard was an
desperate.
affront to the
I mean, they're
safety of the
desperate.
district.
They're attacking procedure because they
It
can't
must be
attack the
fully
actual evidence
investigated
against
whether
them.
political leadership here in
They
Washington, D.C.
willfully and
took an
strongly
inadequate and
attempted to throw out this
irresponsible
entire thing
forced posture
on
January 6th
constitutional
because of their
basis.
commitment
They
to the false narrative of
refused to
what
let Trump
happened
testify
last June.
because he
Hopefully, we can all now agree
he's
that
innocent.
the administration
They should have
acted properly
just
by taking
put him up
action
to testify.
stop a
See what he
riotous
says.
mob, establishing an appropriate security perimeter, and prevent
And
the
now they
White
have to
House
resort
from
to talking about
potentially being
completely separate
overrun.
incidents that have absolutely nothing
The
to do with
House
the trial.
managers argued this week that an alleged brief delay in issuing a public statement from Mr. Trump on January 6th was somehow evidence that he committed incitement or supported the violence.
Trump failed to call out the National Guard to protect the Capitol.
Yet for
Yeah,
months
it
last
was
year,
up to
Joe
Mike Pence,
Biden,
who ended up doing
Vice
it.
President Harris and countless of other Democrats repeatedly refused to condemn the extremes as riots were occurring daily, as businesses were being ramshackled, as neighborhoods were being burned.
The
as
fact that
bombs were
the president
exploding.
has control over the Capitol in D.C. is a
They
little odd too.
repeatedly refused to tell their violent supporters
Yeah,
to
but I think that's
stand
always
down.
been like the case, right?
Some even suggested that the
I don't know if
mob's
the Capitol
actions
Police were told to stay
justified.
home.
Vice
It
President
was
Harris
more of a
literally urged her followers to donate money to a fund to bail
supposedly
out the violent, extreme
they just didn't
rioters
have enough
so that they
people,
could get
enough
out and
resources.
continue to
But
do
I don't know if they were
over
specifically
and
ordered to
over
stay home.
again. She later said that those folks were not going to let up and that they should not. All of this was far closer to the actual
Yes, they did.
definition of
Yes, they did.
incitement than anything President Trump
That is straight up
has
like
ever
false.
said or
Yes, they
done.
did.
Never mind what he said on the 6th. It's a hypocrisy. It's a hypocrisy that the House managers have laid at the feet of this chamber. The House managers suggested in this recent history is irrelevant to the current proceedings. But not only is Democrats' behavior surrounding last year's riots highly relevant as precedent, and not only does it reveal the dishonesty and insincerity of this entire endeavor, it also provides crucial context that should inform our understanding of the events that took place on January 6th. Many of the people who infiltrated the Capitol took pictures of themselves and posted them on social media. To some, it seems, they thought that it was all a game. They apparently believed that violent mobs, destruction of property, rioting, assaulting police, and vandalizing historic treasures was somehow now acceptable in the United States.
Pelosi
Where
has
might
condemned
they
it too.
have gotten that idea? I would suggest to you that it was not from Mr. Trump. It was not Mr. Trump. It was not anyone in the Republican Party that spent the 6 months immediately prior to the Capitol assault giving rhetorical aid and comfort to mobs, making excuses for rioters, celebrating radicalism, and explaining that angry, frustrated, and marginalized people were entitled
Yeah, I don't know if
to blow off steam like that. Let me be very clear. There can be no excuse for
Here,
the
I got you,
depraved
fam. Here,
actions
really
of the
quickly.
rioters here at the Capitol or
You're not here in good
anywhere
faith,
else
my friend.
across this country. 100% of those guilty of committing crimes deserve lengthy prison sentences for their shameful and depraved conduct. But this trial has raised the question about words, actions, and consequences. As a nation, we must ask ourselves, how did we arrive at this place where rioting and pillaging would become commonplace? I
So,
submit to you that it was
just to be clear,
month
for
after
me,
month of political
I don't believe
leaders and media
that rioting and looting is okay.
bloodthirsty
Okay?
for ratings,
Just to be clear.
glorifying civil
But
unrest,
this,
and condemning the reasonable law
This is
enforcement
massive
measures
whataboutism.
that are required
Okay?
to quell violent
This is
mobs.
massive whataboutism.
Hopefully, we can all leave this chamber in uniform agreement that
On screen,
all
repeated here for
rioting,
clarity. On August 30th,
all
Joe Biden condemned
rioting
violence at protests.
is
Yeah,
bad,
we know. Yeah,
and
like
that law
100%.
enforcement
We could
deserves
even
our
find like
respect and support.
here.
That has been Mr. Trump's position from the very beginning. The real question in this case is, who is ultimately responsible for such acts of mayhem and violence when they are committed? The House Democrats want two different standards, one for themselves and one for their political opposition. They have carried out a grossly unconstitutional effort to punish Mr. Trump for protected First Amendment speech. It's an egregious violation of his constitutional rights. Since he uttered not a single word encouraging violence, this action can only be seen as an effort to censor disfavored political speech and discriminate against a disapproved viewpoint. It is an unprecedented action with the potential to do grave and lasting damage to both the presidency and the separation of powers and the future of democratic self-government. Yesterday, we played you a video of countless Democrat members of the Senate urging their supporters to fight. We showed you those videos not because we think you should be forcibly removed from office for saying those things, but because we know you should not be forcibly removed from office for saying those things. But recognize the hypocrisy. Yesterday, in questioning, House Manager Raskin admitted that the House Democrats had invented an entirely new legal standard. In fact, they've created a new legal theory, the Raskin Doctrine.
Damn it, Discord.
The Raskin Doctrine is based on nothing more than determining protected
doesn't like
speech
me.
based on the party
Wait, who?
label
Oh, Discord?
next to your name.
Doesn't matter what
Regardless
camera
of
I
what
used.
you have heard or what you have seen from the
Look at
House
Squeaky.
managers, if
Squeaky.
you pay close attention, you will see that any speech made by Democrat elected officials is protected speech, while any speech made by Republican elected officials is not protected. The creation of the Raskin Doctrine actually reveals the weakness of the House manager's case. Elected officials, and we reviewed this in depth yesterday, under Supreme Court precedent, Wood and Bond, and by the way, Bond didn't burn his draft card. He actually still had it. It was part of his defense. But in Bond and in Wood, the court clearly directed all to know that elected officials hold the highest protections of speech, the highest protections. And I remind you why. Because you all need to be free to have robust political discussion, because your discussion is about how our lives are going to go. And that shouldn't be squelched by any political party on either side of the aisle, no matter who's the majority party at the time. Why would the House managers make up their own legal standard? I'll tell you why. Because they know they cannot satisfy the existing constitutional standard set forth by the United States
everything that I've
Supreme Court
researched
that
has shown us
existed
that
for more than half a century.
at one point or another,
They argue Mr. Trump,
most
as an elected official, has no
Democratic
First
leadership
Amendment
has
rights.
condemned the violence.
It's the complete
Okay,
opposite.
and in my
of the
opinion,
law. We've
I
shown
do
you without
disagree,
contradiction
Pooperetti.
that is wrong.
I think that the optics
They
leads to
also
more
know that they
more
cannot
damage
satisfy the three-part
than
test of
us advancing any type of
Brandenburg,
political gain.
as elucidated
In my
the
opinion,
Bible
that's just like
Believers case.
it just does us no favors.
There
You know,
was absolutely no evidence that Mr.
agree.
Trump's words were directed to inciting imminent lawless action.
And like, see, here
There
we
was
are
no
talking about like
evidence that
something that's
Mr.
like,
Trump
again,
intended
that's the
his
point.
words to
It's
incite
to gaslight,
violence.
obstruct, and project.
And the violence was
They
pre-planned
can't.
and premeditated by a group of
They
lawless
can't
actors who must be
look away
prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
from what they
But it
can't
proves
they
that
can't
his
not look away.
words
They can't
weren't what set this
acknowledge
into motion.
what happened.
What was the
They
incitement?
can't acknowledge what happened
With no
because
ability and no evidence to satisfy
know.
the existing constitutional standards, what are the House managers to do? They had to make up their own law. This is not only intellectually dishonest, folks, it's downright scary. What type of precedent would be set if the Senate did vote to convict? Can Congress now ignore Supreme Court precedent on the contours of protected free speech? Will Congress be permitted to continually make up their own legal standards and apply those new standards to elected
so the
officials'
defense
speech?
is quote free speech
This would allow Congress to
and
use the
whataboutism.
awesome impeachment power as a weapon to impeach their fellow colleagues in the opposing party. This is not a precedent that this Senate can set here today. If the Senate endorses the House Democrats' absurd new theory, you will set a precedent that will trouble leaders from both parties.
Nope,
literally
that's projection.
for centuries to come.
If you allow this behavior to be validated,
But that will not be the only disgraceful precedent.
if you allow
to
this
come
behavior
from
to
this
be
case.
validated,
This has been perhaps the most unfair
then
and flagrantly
you will be setting a
unconstitutional
dangerous
proceeding
precedent.
in the history of the United States Senate. For the first time in history, Congress has asserted the right to try and punish a former president who is a private citizen. Nowhere in the Constitution is the power enumerated or implied. Congress has no authority, no right, and no business holding a trial of citizen Trump, let
Nope.
alone a trial to deprive
that's also a
them
completely
of some fundamental civil rights.
very
There was mention of a
lukewarm defense, as we
January
had this
exception
argument already, and the decision was made that yes, it is
January
constitutional. We went through this
exception
process already.
argument is a creation
That is
of the
not a
House
refutement.
manager's own conduct.
Like, okay, so
by
just to be
delaying.
clear, my biggest problems with this is like
They sat
none of
on
these
the
arguments,
article. They could have tried the president while he was
none
still
of these
in office
arguments
if they really
refute
believed
the
he was an imminent
accusation
threat.
that Trump did
didn't.
or did not incite
The
this.
January
None of these arguments
exception
refute that
is a
notion
red
whatsoever.
herring.
Not
It's
one.
nonsense.
It's whataboutism.
Because
It's
federal,
it's free
state,
speech.
and local
That does not
authorities
mean
can
he
investigate.
did not incite this. They're just trying to couch it as a free speech thing.
exception
And number three,
always
that it's unconstitutional
expires on
to impeach a
January 20th.
president who has been who's already left in office.
House
Which would,
Democrats
in and of
and this
itself,
deeply
set an
unfair trial
immensely
have
dangerous
shamefully
precedent. Because in other words, what they're saying is, well, you know
norm,
what, in
and
the last few
standard
days of
due
office,
process.
anyone who's president can
In a
do
way
whatever
I've
they want.
never,
That's not
ever
okay.
seen before. Mr.
Because
Trump
they're going to
was
be
given no right
because they're going to be a
review
private
the
citizen in
so-called
a few weeks
evidence
anyway. So why
against
should
him
we
at
try?
trial. He was given no opportunity to question its propriety. He was given no chance to engage in fact-finding. Much of what was
That's a lie. He was allowed. He was
unverified, second or third-hand reporting.
he was
cribbed
allowed
from
to
a
testify.
biased
He could have
news
testified.
media, including stories based on anonymous sources whose identities aren't even known to them. Never mind my client. They manufactured and doctored evidence, so much so that they had to withdraw it. We had the evidence after we started the trial. They went on for 2 days. So in the evening, I was able to go back and take a really close look at the stuff.
Excuses.
Myself and Mr. Castor and Ms. Bateman and Mr. Brennan, we all worked hard and looked at the evidence, 4 volumes of books in little tiny print. And we started, literally had, 12, 14 hours to really look at the evidence before we had to go on. And just in that short time of looking at the evidence, we saw them fabricating Twitter accounts. We saw the masked man sitting at his desk with the New York Times there.
What
And when we
is he
looked
talking
closer,
about?
we found that the date was wrong, the check had been added. They fabricated evidence.
What
They
is he
made it
on
up.
about?
They never addressed that in their closing, as though it were acceptable, as though it were all right, as though that's the way it should be done here in the Senate of the United States of America.
Notice how he doesn't provide any example.
Fraud.
Notice how he
out.
doesn't provide any example of what he would consider a quote-unquote
Where
manufactured
I come
evidence
from, in the
or
courts that I practice in, they're very harsh
manufactured evidence and
for what they pulled in this
or
trial.
evidence that he claimed was bad, or taking the evidence that was provided that he says is okay, he didn't even give a single refutation of any of this. It's just like,
As we have shown, the House managers were caught creating false representations of tweets.
nah, I'm good. I'm glad I don't have to talk about Trump after this is all over.
Manipulating
Me too.
videos and introducing into the record completely discredited lies such as the Fine People hoax as factual evidence. Most of what the House managers have said and shown you would be inadmissible in any respectable court of law.
This isn't a
They
court
were
of
not
law.
trying a case. They
And
were
what are you
telling
talking
a political
about?
tale, a fable, and a patently false one at that. House Democrats have denied due process and rushed the impeachment because they know that a fair trial would reveal Mr. Trump's innocence of the charges against him. The more actual evidence that comes out, the clearer it is that this was a pre-planned and premeditated attack, which his language in no way incited. Because their case is so weak, the House managers have taken a kitchen sink approach to the supposedly single article of impeachment.
Nah, I'm good,
They
Hirsch.
allege that Mr. Trump incited the January 6th violence. They allege that
no
he
more like
abused
celebrity
power by
status
attempting
stuff
to
for
pressure
president.
Georgia
No,
Secretary of State
hard pass.
Raffensperger to undermine the results of the 2020 election, and they allege that
Carlos,
he
where's
gravely
your
and
sense of
endangered
adventure?
the democratic
No.
system by interfering with the peaceful transition of power. At least three things there. Under the Senate rules, each of these allegations must have been alleged in a separate article of impeachment. I need not remind this chamber that Rule 23 of the Rules of Procedure and Practice in the Senate when sitting on impeachment trials provides
Yeah, sure.
pertinent part, that an article of impeachment shall not be divisible thereon. Why is that? Because the article at issue here alleges multiple wrongs in the single article, it would be impossible to know if 2/3 of the members agreed on the entire article or just on parts of it as the
No,
basis for a vote
I'm
to
good.
convict.
Hard pass on either of
Based on
them.
this alone, the Senate must vote to acquit Mr. Trump. You got to at least obey your own rules if it's not the Constitution you're going to obey.
The House determines the setting
In short,
of
this impeachment has been a complete charade from beginning to end. The entire spectacle has been nothing but the unhinged pursuit of a long-standing political vendetta against Mr. Trump by the opposition party. As we have
Just
shown,
sleep all
Democrats
day,
were
you lazy
obsessed with
butt.
impeaching Mr. Trump from the very beginning of his term. The House Democrats tried to impeach him in his first year. They tried to impeach him in his second year. They did impeach him in his third year, and they impeached him again in his fourth year. And now they have conducted a phony impeachment show trial when he is a private citizen out of office.
So you're gonna provide
This
which
hastily
part of it was phony?
orchestrated and unconstitutional circus is the House Democrats' final desperate attempt to accomplish their obsessive desire of the last
Nope.
5 years. Since the moment he stepped into the political arena, since my client stepped in, they have been possessed by an overwhelming zeal to vanquish an independent-minded outsider from the midst and to shame, demean,
What?
silence, and demonize his supporters in the desperate hope that they will never, ever pose an electoral challenge. We heard one of the congressmen on the screen. If you don't impeach him, he might be elected again. That's the fear. That's what's driving this impeachment. When you deliberate over your decision, there are 4 distinct grounds under which you must acquit my client. First is jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction?
There is no jurisdiction. And if you believe that, you still get to say it. 2, Rule 23. It had to be divisible. Each allegation had to be singularly set out in front of you so it could be voted on and to see if 2/3 of you think that they proved that case or not. They didn't do that. You got to ask yourself why. They know the Senate rules. They got them, and so did I. Why'd they do it? Because they hadn't investigated, first of all. But also, what they found out as they were preparing all of this, they couldn't do it. So if they threw as much in as they could and made as many bold, bald allegations as they could, then maybe 2/3 of you would fall for it. That's why the rules don't allow it to go that way. Due process, I've exhausted that subject.
Due
It's a
process.
really good
This is an impeachment trial. It's
reason
not a
for all
criminal
of
or
you,
civil trial.
all of you in this chamber, to stop.
He thinks he's in a courtroom.
Yeah, unironically, because like that's a desperate attempt to like. So the desperate attempt
this
here
proceeding.
is procedure because he can't refute the evidence
acknowledge
provided
that the
against him.
lack of due
So you attack the process when you can't have a good
Way
defense
over the top.
to the evidence against you. You attack the process in every way, shape, or form.
Not
2,
stand
a lot of the rhetoric that he's
of
been
course,
using is
the First
complete
Amendment,
100%
the actual facts
whataboutism.
of this case.
Nothing to do with the stuff
There
that's
were
happening right
no
now.
words of
3,
incitement.
the
4
fact that he's
grounds.
trying to say that this is
Nobody gets to tell you
unconstitutional
which
is
ground to pick,
completely not true
and nobody
because we
gets to tell
already
you how
had this
many grounds
argument.
to
And
consider.
not only did constitutional lawyers say that it's possible, but they voted on
Senators,
this, and
do not let House
55
Democrats
senators,
take this
including
manacled
Republicans,
crusade
voted
any
that this is
further.
constitutional
The Senate
because
does
at the
not
time
have to
he
go
was
down
president.
this dark
Just because
path
you're a
of
private citizen now
enmity and
does not
division.
exclude you
You
from
do
being
not have to
impeached
indulge the
while you
impeachment
were
lust,
president.
the dishonesty and the hypocrisy.
This is like
It is
saying
time
like
to bring
That'd
this
be like moving to another
unconstitutional
state
political
and
theater
you
to
had
an
gone
end.
on like a crime
It's time
spree
to allow
in
our
the
nation to
state
move
you
forward.
lived in. And
It is
like,
time
okay,
to
well,
address
I
the
live in
real
Texas
business
now. You guys
pressing
can't charge
this
me for any
nation.
of that.
The
yeah, like
pandemic,
what?
I don't
our
understand.
economy,
Yeah, I was gonna make a similar
racial
like a
inequality,
similar thing, but like saying that like this is like moving out of
economic and
country
social
and then saying that oh
inequality.
you know I don't have any
These are the
responsibility because
things
I'm
that
not a
we
U.S.
need to
citizen
be
anymore.
thinking and
Like
working
what? They will
on for
extradite
all
you.
of
They will
us
find you.
in America.
What do you mean that you like?
All of us.
So it's the same exact idea.
With
The
your vote, you can
ludicrous
defend the
assumption that you
Constitution.
can't
You can protect
impeach somebody
due
just because they're
process,
not quote unquote president
and you
anymore.
can allow
It's just not true.
America's healing
Idiots.
to begin. I urge
Idiots.
the Senate.
And he continues to talk about due process because at the end of the day,
vindicate
this is like his
the
very foundation of his
Constitution
defense. It's
of
like,
this great republic.
because if he really had a defense, he would sit here and do what the House
Who yields time?
impeachment managers did and set up presentations and slides or data points indicating where actually, the House's statement here was taken out of context, or for example, if you wanted to refute the video, it's like, well, actually, this is what the president said later on. Like anything, I mean, anything, literally anything to refute, any of the House's accusations could have been submitted, but they don't.
Act of self-restraint on my part, I will resist the opportunity to rebut every single false and illogical thing that you just heard, and I am going to be able to return to you, perhaps 22 or 23 minutes. Few points. One, we have definitely made some progress in the last few days, because a few days ago, the president's team, although I think it was perhaps a member who has since left the team, lectured us that this was not an insurrection and said that the impeachment managers were outrageous in using the word insurrection. Today, counsel in his closing statement said it was a violent insurrection, and he denounced it. And I would certainly love to see President Trump also call it a violent insurrection and denounce it too. And I believe, although I don't have a verbatim text, that counsel called for long sentences for the people who were involved. Again, I would love to hear that come from the president as well. The distinguished counsel complains that there's no precedent with the developed body of law that the Senate has for impeaching and convicting a president who incites violent insurrection against the Congress and the government of the United States. Well, I suppose that's true because it never occurred to any other president of the United States, from George Washington to John Adams to Thomas Jefferson to James Madison to James Monroe to Abraham Lincoln to Ronald Reagan, to George W. Bush, to Barack Obama, to incite a violent insurrection against the Union. You're right, we've got no precedent for that. And so they think that that somehow is a mark in their favor. That's a score for them, that this Senate has to be the first one to define incitement of violent insurrection against the Union. And so the gentleman puts it on me. He says, inciting a president for committing incitement to violent insurrection against the Union is the new Raskin doctrine. We've tried to convince him that there are well-known principles and elements of incitement which we have talked to you about ad nauseum, and that this is an intrinsically, inherently fact-based judgment. But if that is the Raskin doctrine, that a president of the United States cannot incite violent insurrection against the Union and the Congress, then I embrace it, and I take it as an honor. Most law professors never even get a doctrine named after them. So I will accept that. And finally, the counsel goes back to Julian Bond's case, because I think in the final analysis, their best argument, as pathetically weak as it is really about the First Amendment. But remember, they keep talking about stifling President Trump's speech. Someone tell me when his speech has ever been stifled. He says exactly what he wants, whenever he wants. If and when you convict him for incitement of insurrection, he will continue to say whatever he wants on that day. Remember, they referred yesterday to interference with his liberty, which I found absolutely bizarre, because everybody knows that he will not spend 1 minute in prison or jail from conviction on these charges. It is a civil remedy to protect all of us, to protect the entire country,
Yeah, I mean,
our children,
Duke,
our
I'm not even gonna.
Constitution, our future. That's what impeachment, trial,
Nah, I mean,
conviction,
like, yeah, sure. It may from this perspective make somebody
are all
like
about.
Bush a little bit better, but no.
We're all about.
He
Julian
just
Bond.
spoke a little better.
See, I knew Julian Bond, so forgive me. Most people say don't even
This
respond to stuff I gotta
disaster was
respond.
brewing way before, in terms
Julian
of government
Bond
incompetence.
was a civil rights activist who decided
All
to
right,
go
fam.
into politics. Like
Most
the people
likely,
in
this
room,
is going to
like
go
all
on
of
for
us
quite some
who are in
time. At this time,
and
it
they
is
tried to
about
keep him out.
3:30, so I
Do
do
you
have
remember
to.
SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee,
I do
which
have to
really
get going and get some stuff done.
launched
Guys,
the
if
voting
you,
rights movement in America.
boo, I know.
It's a
If
great
you guys
story
enjoy the
that
type
Bob
of
Moses
content that we
tells in
do,
his
please make sure you
book
hit
called
that follow
Radical
button. It
Equations
really
about,
does help us
you know, he
out.
was a
And
graduate student in
tell everybody
mathematics
you
at
know,
Harvard, and he went
make sure
down
you
to
join us
Mississippi.
Monday
You
through
know why?
Thursday,
Because he saw
9
a
a.m. to
picture in the
11
New York
a.m. for
Times
daily news and politics in the
the-
morning. Please head on over to our
black
YouTube
civil
channel and hit
rights
that subscribe button. It
protesters,
really
college
does help us out.
students.
And
I think
we'll
North
see.
Carolina,
I'm pretty sure
AT&T,
by
he saw
Monday
a
we'll
picture of
have
them on the cover of the New York Times,
quite
and they were
the stuff
sitting
to go
in,
over in terms of this, but you know.
at a lunch counter, and he looked at the picture and he said, "They
Right,
look
as long as you
way
don't mention
that
it
I felt."
explicitly,
They
Geodude.
looked the way that I felt, and he said he had
Like
to go
that's the
down
implication
south to
here.
Mississippi.
So
And they
yes, guys,
launched
please make sure
the
you
voting
hit
rights
that
movement.
subscribe
That's where
button on the
the phrase
YouTubes,
"one person, one
follow
vote"
us,
comes from.
and
It was not
join our
invented by
Discord
the
to
Supreme
stay,
Court.
you
They
know,
would go door to door
to stay
try to
active
register
in the
people.
community and take any conversation
But anyway, Julian Bond was
offline.
part of
Right now, we're gonna go ahead and
Student
raid.
nonviolent.
We're gonna go on a raid. I think I saw.
It was the end, and it was the means, nonviolence. And he ran for.
You know
he ran
what?
for the state
Tina
legislature in Georgia.
too. Great,
A path
fantastic
other
streamer.
civil rights
I'm pretty
activists
sure y'all
followed,
are gonna have
like our
some
great,
awesome
late,
time,
beloved colleague
and
John
most
Lewis,
likely they're gonna continue their coverage
in
here.
our
So I'm not
too.
allowed to call for
And
Anakin. Wow. Yeah, it turns out.
When he got elected, they wanted to try to keep
all right,
him
guys,
from being
let's try
sworn
not to be
into
too
the
close
Georgia
to the sun.
legislature.
But let's
so,
head on over there. And once
"The
again,
Student
guys,
Nonviolent Coordinating Committee
thank
is
you.
taking a position
You
against
guys
you.
are what
Now,
makes
Moore,
this channel
you're a
grow.
member of SNCC.
I love you all.
We're not
And
gonna
as
admit you
always,
because you took a
please stay
position
safe.
against the
And we
Vietnam
hope to
War.
see you
And
guys
the
in
Supreme
the next
Court,
one.
in its wisdom, said you
See
cannot
ya.
prevent
See ya.
someone from swearing an oath to become a member of a legislative body because of a position
Peace out, man.
that they
Loving your
took
work and good
or a
luck.
group they
Thank
were
you.
part
I
of
appreciate
took
that.
before they got sworn in.
I
That's the
appreciate
exact
that. Let's head on
opposite of
over to
Donald
Tina's
Trump.
channel.
He
Oh,
got
they're having a
elected to
panel.
office.
Oh,
He
great.
swore
Awesome.
an oath to the Constitution.
They're having a panel.
To preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. He served as president for 4 years, right up until the end.
Let me see.
When he wanted to exercise his
Let me
rights
see, 'cause it could
under
be Doc
the
Midnight
imaginary
that's
January
holding-
exception, and he incited a violent mob and insurrection to come up here, and we all know what
Oh yeah,
happened.
let's head on over to Doc Midnight.
He is
Yeah, they're doing a
being
great, fantastic
impeached and
panel.
convicted for
There's some great,
violating his
fantastic
oath of
people
office that
on
he
that
took.
panel, including
He's
Tina.
not
So let's
being
head on over
prevented
there.
from taking his oath
Let's
in
head on over
the
there.
first place. The First Amendment's on our side.
Yes,
He
and more
tried
kitty
to
cats. That's true.
overturn the
All right,
will of the
guys.
people,
Let's head
the
out
voice
in
of the people.
5,
He lost that
4,
election by more than 7
3,
million votes.
2.
Some people don't want to admit it. Counsel
Let's
for the president could not bring themselves to admit that the election's over.